Dan Sullivan. Are you ready? Dan Fagan and Glen Biegel are here. They're gonna tear it up, rip it down, and shoot it straight. Fagan and Biegel in the morning on Hot Talk, KOAN. And now, Fagan and Biegel.
I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, but I bet I can prove it.
I love conspiracy.
Oh, yes. And you have to have a good one to start every morning.
Oh.
No, you don't have to have one. But if you do get a good one, it's a sign of a good day.
That would be fun.
Headed in. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie on air, 6:06 a.m., October 15th. The 1-year birth date anniversary of my youngest, number 9.
Happy birthday.
Yay. So, Cara Maria.
How old is she?
She's 1.
Oh.
A single year old.
Ah.
Oh, she's so cute.
She's like yesterday. I saw your announcement on Facebook when she was born.
Oh. Yeah, it does seem like that.
It does.
It goes fast. Yeah. So she's just decided that she's going to transition from toddling to toddling really fast.
Oh.
Like kind of almost a run. It is the funniest looking thing. It's so funny how short you are, you know.
But how quickly you can get there.
Yeah. It's, you know, you look at human development and think, because moms would have had to carry babies around, you know, basically all the time. So they couldn't be very big. So babies go through these strange development, you know, stages where they're still small enough. They can kind of handle themselves, but they're still small enough so mom can carry them around. So, anyway, I look at it, and she's just so short. It's ridiculous. So she's got to be like, I don't know, 20 inches tall or something like that. she can kind of do everything that almost a big person could do. You know, she plays with stuff, and she's at these tables, but the tables come up to her chin. I don't know. It's very fun.
Does she think she's as old as all her siblings?
I don't know. She is fascinated by her 2 older brothers who are constantly battling.
Oh.
Yeah. I got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And she's just fascinated by them because they're so loud.
Voice.
Well, yeah, well, one of them, his indoor voice, you know, is about 100 decibels, you know, which will break eardrums. Gregory. That's one Dan gets along real well with.
You can carry them around unless they're born almost 10 pounds.
Then, well, we've had a few of those.
They're a little hard to carry around then for very long.
Anyway, she's getting more and more independent. Miss Independent.
Aww.
Lots to cover on the program today. We had a big debate up in Fairbanks. Walker seems to be holding his own a little more than he has in the past. And so we'll talk about that. Same-sex couples are wedding. And they have waived another law here for Alaska, and that is the waiting period. So waiting period's out the door. And now same-sex couples are wedding. The flu vaccine. I know that you never get vaccines.
I do not. Well, I don't never get vaccines. I just don't get the flu vaccine.
So I'm going to give a shocking revelation about a little later in the program. Love to hear from you as well. And Dan is out. He'll be back next Monday. So it's just you and I. Actually, it's Biegel, Bonnie, and Brian, the buzz.
That's right.
And that's how we run the show this week in the heady political season. So lots to cover. Of course, on that front, head lice is going to stay in schools.
That's gross.
It is gross.
One of the reasons I homeschool.
I broke up with a girl for that because she had head lice.
Oh.
No, you
in
didn't.
the 5th grade. Yeah.
Oh, in the 5th grade.
Yeah.
You're gross.
It didn't make her more interesting?
No, but I'm still friends with her, which is weird.
Like, so Sally, I think we should, you know, go walk around the hill together. What's that crawling down your face?
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. Why isn't she at school today? Oh, she has lice.
Did you even know what lice was at that point?
Well, I found out.
I'm not sure I still know.
I didn't catch it, luckily.
Oh.
Did you try?
No.
You didn't try to catch it?
Well, I hadn't got to that point yet.
Did she have to cut all her hair off?
She did, and she still has short hair, which is wild. Hi, Jacinda. She's probably not listening.
In
it's a small town.
4th grade, I going to study with a girl at that point was pushing them around and chasing after them on the playground, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
Yeah, my 9-year-old, she's, Mom, when did you have your first crush? Oh, probably around your age. And she said, well, I like a boy.
Oh, no.
I have a crush. And I said, oh, what's his name? I don't know. he's at swimming.
Oh, wow.
He's a shark. He chases me around like a shark.
That's right.
We had these dances up at Bayshore Clubhouse when I was in 4th grade. And,
Oh my goodness.
I know, they had dances for us. It
Wow.
was crazy.
That is what's wrong with this
At
world.
my kids' school, they teach my children how to swing dance, how to ballroom dance.
That's fun. Square
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah, we were
used
slow
to go
dancing.
square dancing.
Whoa!
Wow. Get them started
I
young
remember
there.
that song, it was Babe by Styx.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We should find that. We'll do a little traipse down
There you go.
memory lane.
Yeah.
So the opening day conspiracy theory. I'm in the line at McDonald's to get breakfast and my soda, and I get through the line and I eat. I actually put jelly on half of the McMuffin, and I eat that, and I look at the other half, and there's no cheese, and thus starts the conspiracy.
Cheesegate.
How can you
Cheese.
not have cheese on a sausage McMuffin? I didn't even know. I didn't even know.
They just come
I
that
didn't
way?
know that's possible. Did they just come?
The cheese burglar.
They come from the factory
Cheese
that
burglar
way.
stole my cheese. All right, so I'm like, okay, I got plenty of time. All the time in the world. I'm going back through the line, and I'm going to get me a McMuffin with cheese on it, as, to make the world right.
So you were in the drive-thru.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I went through the drive-thru, and it was very fast. First time, boop, bop, boop,
Yeah.
in, out. 60 seconds later, got my thing with no cheese. That's probably why.
That's why, yeah.
It would have taken at least 75 seconds if it had cheese on it. So I go back through, and one guy ahead of me. I'm like, oh, we're in good shape.
No, he's getting stuff for his
2
whole
minutes.
office.
3 minutes, 5 minutes. Like,
Oh.
you cannot be serious.
Oh.
And I
That
started
guy.
looking at the clock. I started thinking, I got to call Bonnie. I got to figure
I
out
know, and you don't have my number.
how am I going to get here. So I would have had to Facebook you or something. I don't know. There's a million ways you can get in
I
touch
actually
with people.
was kind of looking at my messenger going,
You could have called into the show.
yeah, there you go.
Hi, everybody. It's Glenn reporting live from McDonald's.
569-1080.
So I went. Finally the guy goes, and they only handed him one bag, so it must have been, they must have made him steak and eggs or something at the McDonald's. I know they can't do that, but they did.
It was one hash brown.
It was just one hash brown. So I finally get up there. They give me my sausage McMuffin with egg, and I head out, and I start eating it, and there's no cheese.
Maybe they're not making them with cheese anymore.
There's
That's
no
the more
cheese.
healthy Egg McMuffin.
Michelle Obama got involved.
It doesn't say egg and
Obama,
cheese
that's what it
McMuffin.
is. Oh my gosh, that has got to be the answer. Anyway, I've never even heard of it. I've never even heard of them and shorting people cheese,
Maybe
especially
you should
twice.
be ordering an egg and cheese McMuffin.
I don't have the kind of money.
Maybe they
You
were
realize
hoping
the
you didn't know.
cost differential between the sausage McMuffin with no egg and with an egg is $1.50.
Just wait till minimum wage goes through.
We're paying $11.10 an hour to the dude. Hey, he's very cordial though. Have you noticed that?
Is this the same guy that Dan goes
No,
through to get his ice?
I don't know. I don't
Yoshi
know.
or something like that? I don't remember his
Yeah,
name.
no, he doesn't look shifty. The guy
Oh.
who serves Dan, I think, is shifty. But no, this guy's solid. Oh, here we are. A little slow dance for the fourth graders
That
out there.
is so funny.
So nice to have you with us.
They're
Welcome.
second grade now.
It's-
Getting younger and younger.
It's Wednesday on the Fagan Biegel and Bonnie Show, 6:14 a.m.
Getting younger.
Babe, I'm leaving. I must be on my way. The time is drawing.
1080 KOAN.
If you're headed for the movies, there's just one place to go. Check out Movies Echo.
Man, the million air heat exchanger found in all our gas furnaces is living up to its name and then some. The Millionaire recently surpassed the 2 million cycle mark in our test facility, and it's still going strong. In fact, we're so confident in its reliability, Amana offers a lifetime unit replacement limited warranty to the original registered homeowner if the heat exchanger...
I don't know about you, but I'm tired of seeing good people attacked. And that's why I'm speaking to you about my friend Kathy Giesel. Senator Giesel deeply cares about her neighbors and what matters to them. She takes the time to listen to their issues and bring those concerns to Juno. I'm disappointed that her opponent is willing to attack her and not stand on his own record. Kathy Giesel is someone I'm proud to work with, and with your support, she'll continue to fight for you.
Thanks, Anna. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. I'm proud to serve with great Alaskans like Anna Fairclough, and I'm proud to be your voice in Juneau. I'll stand on my record and the work I've done in Juneau. From issues like healthcare, jobs, education, and a long-term fiscal plan to keep Alaska on the right track, I'm there for you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel for State Senate 12701 Ridgewood Road, Anchorage, Alaska 99516.
Hey, football fans, we've got a quick quiz for you. Which do you prefer? A, B, C,
We're going into overtime.
or D?
Going into overtime.
If you chose D, then there's only one place for you this football season. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wall-to-wall TVs, wings, beer, and plenty of food to share.
Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
Good morning, 6:17 a.m. It is KOAN, KVNT, and I would love to hear from you if you have had a conspiracy occur in your life, for good or ill. Maybe are there good conspiracies?
Sure. I think they're all good. I think it's exciting to have a good conspiracy.
Okay, this was not good. Them shorting me cheese at McDonald's was a very, very bad, evil,
Well, so what was the
dastardly
conspiracy?
Well, the conspiracy was they knew that if they shorted me cheese, I was going to go back through the line thinking, oh, I got this. I got it in the bag. We're fine. I've got plenty of time. And then they were going to short me cheese again and make me wait like 7 minutes while they serve the guy a hash brown.
They're like, here comes Glen Biegel.
We're going to get him because he's conservative.
Look, you have to live.
Is that the conspiracy?
That's the conspiracy.
And how do you spell Beagle?
Man,
I before E, except after C.
Yeah, that confuses people still. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Fagan is going to be out this week. He's back next Monday, so love to hear from you. 569-1080. 569-1080. You know, your pants are on fire, your house is on fire. Well, guess what? You want to know what's on fire, Bonnie?
What?
The budget.
Ooh.
Alaska state budget is on fire. Yeah. We're going to be $2 billion short. Now, first of all, it's too early to panic. You don't know whether or not oil prices are going to recover, and you really don't know where they're going to sit or for how long. This looks like a very irrational crash. You know, it's not a gentle descent. It is the market sort of releveling itself perhaps at a new level. If that does occur, and we do end up between $80 and $85 a barrel. Wow.
So what do we cut first?
Well,
where do we start?
How?
Let me at it.
And who's going to be best at it? And, how will Alaskans adjust? I always think of these things as opportunities. But then again, I don't need government. And depend on government. I don't want government. My family probably uses $1,000 in government services. If I sent all my kids to school, they would use, I don't know, $180,000 in government services there.
Mm-hmm.
Per year, by the way, because it's like $18,000. I don't have
right.
to. I actually added a child there for myself for a very brief moment. I'm not looking for the government to do anything for me, so I'm always thinking, well, obviously I'll be okay. The question is, there are a lot of people who have, they wait for the government check to come in. They take the government check and they go get themselves food. They take the government check and they go pay their mortgage, or not their mortgage, but their rent. And so there is going to be a transition period here. Now, I think it will be good because I think society, particularly people who are dependent on government, can live on a lot less, and they'll still be okay.
Do you really think that they'll cut entitlement services, though? Because, I mean, if it's anything like our president, he's cutting everything but entitlement services. So I'm not sure it really does affect the people who receive the entitlement.
This is different. This is like, well, first of all, we have savings accounts, but we don't have a printing press.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's true.
Right. Now, the federal government has been stealing from savings accounts for the last 30 years. Those are called Social Security and Medicaid.
What is that? I'm not sure what that is. I know I get it taken out of my check, but I'm not sure I really know what it is. I'll never receive it.
Your little notice for.
Oh yeah, the quarterly or.
No, my guess is you still will get Social Security, but they'll be stealing more and more of your children's check because we just can't talk about it. You know, you start saying, I don't want my children to have to fund my retirement. That should be my money. There aren't any easy answers there, by the way. In order for us to shore up Social Security totally so that your money was actually your money, which I do think that's the way we should do it, we would have to print $17 trillion. Now, I think that they would let us print $17 trillion.
Yeah, what's another 17?
Don't you think so, Brian?
Why not?
Why not? We've already printed 17 now. You know, we're $17 trillion in debt, and I think like $12 billion of it is printed and somebody else owns the debt. But if we just printed another $17 trillion in debt and transferred all the Social Security general fund money into people's individual accounts, then they would have their own Social Security account. That's my suggestion.
Sounds like
While
a good
we
one.
still can print it, let's print it all.
Common sense, not going to happen.
Anyway, but it's different for the state of Alaska because we don't have a printing press. Not really. And we will run out of our savings. So I think we're going to have to cut. I look at this legislature coming up, and we're going to be looking at legislature that is having to do something that we really haven't had to do since the 90s, and we'll have to do it much more dramatically than the 90s. They may be able to put it off for a year or so, but we're going to be $2.5 billion in debt if oil stays at this level. It's going to be the hardest job in the state.
To cut.
Yeah, being a legislator.
Right.
Because you're going to have to say no, A. B, you're going to have to get very familiar with what services are available through the charitable sector. And we're going to get back to our roots. I mean, I think that's the most positive thing, and we're going to get back to growth. The only way we can survive as a state, because what's happened is we've created this monster government who so many people are dependent on rather than private sector wealth creation. Well, when the government stops being able to provide all this extra money for people, we have to go back to private sector wealth creation. We are going to be creating jobs everywhere. We're going to be suing Greenpeace. We're going to be changing our laws. We're going to be screaming at the top of our lungs for the EPA to get out of here. I bet we're even going to get Pebble. That's how dramatic this is. That the people who are convinced that mining cannot happen with fishing, even though it happens all over the state of Alaska, it happens down in the Gulf of Mexico, even though we have massive examples of it happening, they are going to have to accept we're not going to survive.
And did I hear that Walker has changed his position on that?
Walker changed his position yesterday. Yeah, said he went to Bristol Bay, and I think he said he saw something.
Yeah, that's what I read too. I
saw something. I bet he saw a sign in the sky. I wonder if it was shaped like a big piece of cheese. I don't know. It could be that's the sign that he saw. Well, the sign that he saw was Democrats require that you change your positions. We know who's running the ticket.
Oh yeah, but they're calling them the independent ticket. Byron Millott is the independent.
It's the Beltrami ticket. I found out how much Beltrami makes, by the way. He makes $187,000 in regular pay without any overtime.
And that's Vince Beltrami of the
AFL-CIO. He essentially heads up public sector labor in Alaska. And he's a very powerful man, and now we know he's also a very rich man.
Good for him.
Good for him. Taking all that public money, running it through his union buddy. He is the union boss. I mean, that's and look, he has a much greater impact than most any person who I'm talking to out there. In fact, I bet he has a bigger impact on state politics, on state spending, on state priorities than anybody else in the state of Alaska.
He's running the behind the scenes.
Maybe more than the governor.
You
know, you do wonder at some point. I know this governor is not good friends with Vince Beltrami. He said Vince Beltrami had never come to his door. Yeah, because I asked him the question, you know, when we're trying to figure out how is Walker going to cut something. The NEA tickets never cut anything in their life. The Vince Beltrami public sector union tickets never cut anything in their life. How is he going to cut anything? You know, does he come and ask you to make these cuts? He says, no, I don't ever remember him doing that. I don't remember him coming to my door at all.
Right. I thought that was the biggest point, too, out there is that the unions are always the ones wanting more money. So it's nice to be able to say, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut that. But tell me where, Tell me how, and then maybe I'll listen. But just saying you're going to do something doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah. I guess what they'll do is they will short payments out to welfare recipients so that state workers can keep jobs.
Oh.
I would guess.
I hope people know that.
Because that's the tension that goes on. I mean, right now, the bureaucracy, a lot of times, will use up 60, 70, 80% of the money for the services that are delivered.
Mm-hmm.
The money doesn't make it down to the lowest level, doesn't make it to the recipient. It just gets consumed by bureaucracy. So there is not a lot of room left in that. At some point, you still have to provide some service to Alaska. And that's not the same for every. I mean, some of them are fairly efficient, but many of them are not. Alaska Dispatch News has this article: Parnell Walker trade jabs on spending, energy, and leadership. Walker is trying to walk back, if I may, several of his statements that he's made in the past. Everybody now knows, by the way, that Senate Bill 21 is doing better for Alaska than ACES, which has got to be a shock. It's got to be an aha moment for tens of thousands of people who were convinced that Parnell was working for the oil companies and not Alaska. As it turns out, the irrationally high oil prices of $105 or $110 a barrel. Look, we have a glut of oil. We can produce as much oil as we want. America's producing more oil than I think it ever has. And so the irrationally high oil prices probably weren't going to last. We wanted protection at the low end. Parnell got that. He was working for the state. I know that hurts people to hear, and it hurts people to say, but it's true.
I'm just surprised they're actually saying it.
Well, they basically have to admit that, all right, the $2 billion giveaway was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
That was untrue. It could have been a $2 billion giveaway at $140 a barrel. It's not $140 a barrel. Okay, well, there's no $2 billion giveaway. So the $2 billion giveaway per year is gone. The $10 billion over the next 10 years is gone. Senate Bill 21 is actually getting more money for the state of Alaska. People are really having to rearrange what they thought they knew, they were sure of. So they discussed that, and Parnell, he tried to walk people through what he has done with the budget over the last few years. His transfer of money to the pension liability fund and those kind of things. But Walker came in with the night of the line, the line of the night, in saying that, well, this is budgets that you created. Just because you undid the budgets that you created doesn't mean that you get credit for that.
Right.
Well, the real question people have to ask themselves now is, we are going to be $2.5 billion in deficit, most likely, somewhere between $1.5 billion and $2.5 billion. What are we going to do? And more importantly, who's going to do it?
Got to have responsible people in there.
Well, if you were put in there by special interests,
mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: we already know what Sean Parnell's quote special interest was, right? He was working for the oil companies. That's what everybody said, and it turns out he got a better tax deal for us at lower prices. So he's already kind of built in. We're not expecting any new tax situation to come up. The question is, what are we going to do about all the rest of the budget? And who is going to be better at that? That's the question for this election. You're listening to Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Happy Wednesday, everybody. 6:29 a.m., 569-1080, KOAN, KVNT. And KVNT.
On Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. With a few weeks to go until the election, a Get Out the Native Vote push is underway. Nearly 1 in 5 potential voters in the state identifies as Alaska Native. A 21-year-old Anchorage man has been given 18 months in prison for his role in the brutal beating of a young man last year. James Clinton was found in the basement of an abandoned house that was slated for demolition after someone slipped a note under a door. The University of Alaska Police. Trevor Trobo pleaded guilty in the case, which also included 3 the other defendants. Barring any legal challenges, Alaska's first legal gay marriage may have already taken place. Christine Hildebrand and Sarah Ellis married in the northern community of Barrow after a magistrate agreed to waive the customary 3-day waiting period after a marriage license is issued. The state is making emergency moves to appeal a decision by a federal judge this week. That's your Hot Talk News update.
You can expect a blend of clouds and sunshine today, high 41, mostly cloudy tonight, low 31. We'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow's high 44, high Friday 42, Saturday's high 43. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather. KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
There is in every true woman's heart a spark of heavenly fire, which lies dormant in the broad daylight of prosperity, but which kindles up and beams and blazes in the dark hour of adversity. The 2014 Alaska Women's Summit, the University of Alaska, Anchorage College of Health, U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski and State Senator Liesl McGuire are calling on Alaska's brightest women to come together to work on finding answers to the toughest questions facing Alaskan women and families. Join us for 2 days, October 16th and 17th, focusing on building communities of change, self-advocacy, and removing the glass ceiling. Learn how empowerment and mentorship are vital tools in fostering successful young women. Presented by GCI, also sponsored by SaltCheck, ConocoPhillips, and BP. Register online today, AlaskaWomenSummit.com. The 2014 Alaska Women's Summit. Come and spark your fire.
And I approve this message.
These negative ads are everywhere.
Yeah, I stopped listening and did my own research.
Yeah, what did you find?
Well, I found I really like Dan Sullivan.
Well, I know he served in the Marines for 20 years, and he'll fight against President Obama and Democrats in Washington to protect my Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, and did you know when he was our Attorney General, he worked to put an end to violence against women, defended the constitutionality of Alaska's Parental Notification Initiative Act, and sued the federal government to stop Obamacare.
I like that. What else you got?
Well, as a veteran himself, he's dedicated to fixing the problems plaguing Obama's VA. And he'll fight to ensure they get all the benefits they've earned.
Dan Sullivan. I'm sold.
Me too.
Dan Sullivan, a principled leader for Alaska. Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Allen West Guardian Fund, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. AllenWestGuardianFund.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
With a Sam's Club membership, you get incredible savings every time you shop. Fill your fridge and school lunchboxes with big savings on family favorites, like 2 pounds of Oscar Mayer deli-shaved smoked ham for just $5.98, or 72 slices of Kraft American Singles for $8.98. And pick up a 40-pack of Capri Sun for $6.98, only 17 cents a pouch. Join and save. Sam's Club. Life is better when you're in the club. See club for details.
Here's my good friend, Keith Montronock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help. Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
Why is A&A the shop Alaska's independent Subaru specialist? How is it they've been voted the best shop in Anchorage not once but 6 times? Well, it's pretty simple. They offer the best warranty in the business. If they work on your Subaru, you're going to get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on both parts and labor. That's unheard of. A&A the shop deals exclusively with Subarus, and they also offer $35 oil changes. All their technicians are ASE certified. Call A&A the shop for an appointment. 562-3919 in Anchorage and 696-2096 in Eagle River.
All my life, I've enjoyed hunting and fishing, but as I got older, it made it harder to enjoy the Alaskan outdoors. Thanks to Chugach Chiropractic, I'm back on the stream enjoying Alaska.
Besides aligning the spine, we also deal with the musculature and the nervous system of the body. To do that, we not only adjust the spine, but we also bounce muscles along with various therapies and deep tissue therapy. We help bring the body back to normal function.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KO.
.35 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie here on KOAN, KVNT 569 1080, 569 1080. And the U.S. indigenous peoples could keep the Senate Democrat. And I'd love to hear if you know what it is that our indigenous peoples have gotten from Democrats. And if anybody out there has any suggestion as to why they should keep voting Democrat. I know most Alaska Natives will, not by the percentages most people think. Most people think Natives will vote for Mark Begich 90-10. Matt Larkin said it would be 60-40, 65-35. With that, by the way, I think Mark Begich loses. And I think that's an accurate reflection. No, the indigenous peoples here don't want federal mastery either. And we are, many of them do consider themselves Alaskans rather than looking to remove Alaskans. Although the most vocal portion of them are, look, get out of our state, get off of our land, get out of our way. And they have to realize, as people over in Canada have realized, it was like a light went on. There were Canadian towns that are being beset by polar bears, and the towns wanted to cull the polar bears. They wanted to say, well, look, they're threatening us, and they were sued by the environmental groups. And what was funny about it is the native peoples in Canada were like, but these people are our friends. Don't you understand that it's dangerous for us to live here if we can't get rid of these polar bears? And like, we don't care about you. We care about polar bears. We used you to get the polar bears listed. We don't care about you. You don't make a difference. The same thing happens with seals down on Adak, and now they're trying to list the wolverine. Look, the left will act like your friend until it's time not to act like your friend.
Yeah, you're no longer useful. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's like they're acting like, oh, Obamacare will never pay for abortions. Well, there actually are 27 different plans under Obamacare that do pay for abortions. Well, that's just the way things are. That's quality health care. Like, but didn't you say that they would never pay for abortions? Well, we kind of take the ground that they can.
Well, if it's for the greater good, then it's okay to lie.
Yeah.
And that's what we found when we worked, when my husband was working for Homeland Security. They told him in the training academy, it's okay to lie to people as long as you get the right results. As long as you get the truth from them, it's okay to lie to people.
Oh, when you're questioning them?
Yes.
Oh. So that's the technique that the government will use.
It's okay for them to lie as long as it's for the greater good.
Yeah, I don't know that that's that's good public policy.
Yeah, well, not when people find out about it.
Gets
you a little mad out there, doesn't it?
You're not supposed to rat out our government for lying to us. How fascinating.
People just like to go on and feel good about the government.
I don't have a problem. I'm trying to think of this because I've watched like a billion movies where police go undercover and they're doing all kinds of horrible things, trying to get to the higher ups in the drug organizations and crime organizations, and I kind of understand that because you basically know that you're dealing with criminals. But it just seems like at Homeland Security, you shouldn't know that you're dealing with criminals. And if you do know that you're dealing with criminals, that's probably a good enough criminal for me. I don't think they're looking for any masterminds at Homeland Security, or am I wrong?
I don't know. I think, at the border they are.
Oh, they are looking for mastermind criminals, people coming across the border? Yeah. I mean, maybe, as long as it's part of a larger theme, but it just sounds like... But
usually it's just the little old grandmother with a Kinder egg.
That's what I thought.
You're not allowed to bring that across our border.
Yeah.
Where did you get that?
Well, I don't like the idea of the government lying to its people or lying to people trying to come into the country. I don't know. That's strange.
Yeah, a little questionable ethics there.
Well, it does give you an indication that the left's tie is to, quote, goodness rather than truth.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't.
And their definition
really
of goodness.
Yeah, exactly. They don't mind, which is fairness, right? Mm-hmm. To take something from somebody, give it to somebody else that has been put upon by this life. where our budget's on fire. It's going to become, I would say, the biggest issue in this election. And, we've been talking about gas line. They didn't even bring up in the Alaska Dispatch story, and I'd be interested why you think that they didn't. They didn't bring up the National Guard issue at all. Dermot Cole has been running totally 100% against Sean Parnell for the last long time. And Michael Carey, by the way, came out today with a ridiculous opinion piece that I couldn't stop myself from commenting on, attacking Dan Sullivan, Attorney General Dan Sullivan, for not being Alaskan enough.
That is the most ridiculous thing to me.
Did you think it was too?
Well, I have said all along, I don't care if you came here last year. If you have Alaska's best interests at heart, I mean, then that does not mean anything to me. Just because somebody's born and raised here or lived here for X amount of years does not make them Alaskan enough.
So this is the thing which I highlighted. My father-in-law was a Scotsman. My mother-in-law was a Scot too. That doesn't make me Braveheart.
Right.
So that was one of his. So I quote that, right? I quote, my father-in-law was a Scotsman. My mother-in-law was a Scot too. This is Michael Carey, who's he is a reporter. Mm-hmm. And he's coming out with an opinion piece in his own paper, which to me is a little odd, but look, I appreciate it. That doesn't make me Braveheart. Well, if you lived in Scotland with your Scottish wife and had children there, defended Scotland in battles with British masters, helped to develop her resources, and came back after service in the Scottish military to set up Marine Corps battalions in Scotland, could you be Scottish enough then? I must say, this is one of the silliest articles I've ever read, and I'm sure it sounded more reasonable when it was in your head.
How often does that happen to all of us?
I know. Well, that's the thing is people think, oh, I've got this one. I've got this great thing. I'm going to write it up. And then you write it up into a full-length article, and you realize, at some point you're basically committed. Michael Carey, Alaska Dispatch reporter, left-winger, he's got to come up with some reason why Dan Sullivan is not Alaskan enough, even though Begich votes 97% with Obama.
Sure.
Mr. Alaska. Yeah. I like to call Obama Mr. Alaska. Don't you think? Don't you think Obama is really, truly Mr. Alaska? I mean, when you get a picture of Alaska, you think of a metrosexual man who's concerned about what your children are eating.
Right.
Right.
Over halfway across the world.
Yeah, halfway across the world, just playing golf 200 times, and going on, I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of dollars worth of vacations. Anyway. The point being, obviously, Begich cannot possibly qualify as an Alaskan under any scenario other than he was born here.
Yeah.
Right? He's not voting for Alaska. He's voting for some weird set of Democrat principles that nobody else understands, and he won't tell us what they are.
I mean, it's about as anti-resource as you can get. I haven't seen him do anything for Alaska.
Oh, well, the thing Begich does, and this is why he's so clever, is he's the thorn in the side.
Oh yeah. Well, I want him to be the dagger, but
it.
not in the real sense.
Yeah, you want him to be a political dagger, not a thorn. Anyway, but what he does is he helps pass all these laws which everybody hates and kills off resource development, and then behind the scenes he calls up to make them less bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's his job.
Yep.
His job is, I'm going to vote for everything which will shut down development in Alaska. Total believer in global warming, total believer in the environmental movement.
Voting for Harry Reid.
Voting for Harry Reid, total believer in trial lawyers and the evil corporations and all that. And then, so he passes all these laws, then he tries to make them less bad. That's his job. And look, he may be the best in the world at that.
He'll fool half of Alaska.
That's just not the kind of country I want to live in. 6:44 a.m., KOAN, KVNT, Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. KVNT, Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie.
Five, 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
Trail Boss Solutions is an Alaskan-owned, nationally recognized top 500 construction and remodel firm. From our handyman services to our award-winning kitchen design and remodel, Trail Boss Solutions is fully licensed, bonded, and insured, and has the experienced professionals to take your project from initial design through completion on time and on budget. Please visit us on the web at trailboss-solutions.com or contact Trail Boss Solutions Direct at 646-1403.
911, please hold. 911, please hold.
Anchorage has 80 fewer cops on duty than it did 5 years ago, even though the city is bigger. More people, less coverage. Emergency vehicles get pulled from the hillside or Eagle River to cover Midtown when there are multiple accidents or ambulance calls. And that may mean a much longer response time for somebody who needs help. AO 37 removes police and firefighters from the discussion about staffing and equipment. Their experience is ignored, replaced by someone who doesn't understand what swiftwater rescue means to Eagle River or what rigs are best for hillside roads in winter. Vote no on 1. Let's stop playing politics with public safety. This message is paid for by Repeal 37 and approved by former Police Chief Walt Monaghan and former Fire Chief Greg Goodrich, chairs. Top 3 contributors are APDEA, Anchorage Firefighters, and AFSCME International of Washington, D.C.
This is Olympic cross-country skier Holly Brooks. Do you know a girl who loves camping, sports, and science, community service, and making new friends? If so, she's ready to be a Girl Scout. Girl Scouts creates leadership opportunities for girls. They develop life skills, habits of teamwork, and a strong sense of self. Girl Scouts gives every girl a chance to discover who she is and what she can be. How do I know? Because I was a Girl Scout. Visit www.girlscoutsalaska.org or call 248-2250.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give them a call, 569-1080. KOA.
6:47 a.m., October 15th. Cara Maria, my youngest, 1 year old today.
Happy birthday.
Yes, very exciting. The most sung song in history, the Happy Birthday song. If only somebody could have patented that or whatever and got money.
Somebody did, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you try to sing it or play it in a public location, they'll come after you for licensing fees.
Oh, my goodness.
I love
really
this
crazy.
country.
Oh, my word.
I love it. There's always a way to make a buck.
What have we come to?
That's why at restaurants they make up their own little song.
Eugene.
Really?
Oh, why?
Yep.
You ain't good.
Yep.
Wow.
That's a great song,
Make
too.
up your own. I think I've sung Happy Birthday before. I'll never admit to that on air.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
Or
What's your
anything.
name again? How do you spell Beagle?
You don't. That's the whole key to life. Amanda Coyne seems to be tilting a little more and more left. You agree?
Oh, well, should we? Let's not lie here. She's left.
Well, no, she's on the left. She's a Democrat.
She tries to be unbiased.
Full blown, and so she's been more and more.
I do enjoy her. I do enjoy reading her writing. She's very, she's a very good writer.
Oh yeah.
But I've always known she was left. She does put little, nuances in there that show that.
We've got she put the rest of the Bill Walker went down to Juneau. The rest of the
I didn't get
song.
to listen to that.
All right. Well, we'll have to play that. You want to go
I
out
liked
to
the first one so much.
amandacoyne.com, and this one's 3 minutes and 39 seconds. So I don't know. Listen to it, Brian. I don't know. I haven't listened to it myself personally, but I think it's the rest of it. Quote of the day: Hal Crow in the Uber case. Apparently, Hal Crow is going to run for mayor along with everyone else.
Yeah, who is
on the
not
planet.
running for mayor?
Brian, are you running for mayor? Brian for mayor.
Yeah, which city? Just pick one.
Anyone. Yeah. How about Spenard?
Well, you're Anchorage enough.
Tom's already the mayor.
Oh,
of
that's
Spenard.
right. We already got a mayor, Spenard.
Rabbit Creek.
Rabbit Creek.
Yeah, we've got to find out who's been here the longest, because they'll be Anchorage enough to be mayor.
69.
Oh.
Since 69.
It's a good year. Well, Hal Crow apparently is running, and he thinks the Uber situation, which basically what Uber is a ride-sharing program. It's a nationwide company with, technological infrastructure so that you can register as a ride giver, and other people register as a ride wanter, and then you will look on your smartphone and it'll say there's a ride giver, 5 minutes away. Do you want to ask them for a ride? And then they'll give you a ride for a certain amount of money. It's all, it would all normally be legal because they have a business license in Alaska. And so, it's not like it's specifically illegal other than the fact that the city's decided it wants to regulate anytime anybody gets a cab ride. So the judge came down and said, okay, Uber, you cannot sell rides in Anchorage, but you can give rides away.
And I don't think that was real surprising to them. It doesn't sound like that was a big deal yet.
Well, they've fought this out other places, and
Right.
Uber pays the ticket for the initial one, and then they either go in and they legally fight it, or they go into
It's a brilliant strategy, really, because you're getting the word out there, and it's getting so much, media attention, and it gets their name. Everybody knows it now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd never heard of it before.
I hadn't either, and so they're mixing it up here in Alaska, and the question is whether or not the cab companies will win out, or whether or not technology and progress will win out. Frankly, we just don't need cab companies anymore.
Well, the cab drivers should just start being Uber drivers.
Well, and they will be. They'll just have specifically colored cars, most likely. Although I don't know, they might be in their own car. They probably will be better off, by the way.
I think so. I think so. That it won't. If something's not as regulated, it's probably going to be better.
Yeah, and a cab driver is probably going to get a 5-star rating or whatever. I don't know how they rate the drivers, and so because you're a professional, this is what you do for a living, and you know how to get around town, and you know where people need to go, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, Andrew Halcrow thinks this is going to be a big deal.
I can't believe I agree with Andrew Halcrow.
Yeah. Well, look, he's a businessman. He was born into business. His dad, very wealthy man, and Andrew Halcrow's been brought up in that. I think he's the head of the Anchorage Chamber, or is it? Yeah, Anchorage Chamber, because Petro is head of the state chamber. So, I wonder if people think that's right. 569-1080. You think Uber is going to be a big defining issue, and he has highlighted Amy Domboski and Dan Coffey as to how they're going to come out on this. I like it. I like it for the discussion of when society's ready to move on and our laws become irrelevant. Because you could make the argument that it was a good reason why we wanted to have safe cabs, we wanted to have them well regulated. We wanted to make sure that both the taxi cab drivers and the riders were safe. You can't make that argument. Argument done.
I got a new conspiracy for you, though.
Oh.
What? And somebody else didn't get cheese on their sausage McMuffin with egg?
Doesn't he own a fleet of vehicles?
Yes.
Aha!
He could start producing kids like Glen Biegel. He'll have a fleet of drivers.
Wait a minute. Yeah, he could have some evil design to flood the market with cars that are just Uber. I don't know what you'd say.
He could play the bad guy in a movie.
He could. He looks like a villain, but in a good way.
I remember the one time that he was in the No on One campaign to keep Senate Bill 21, and now it's supposed to be Yes on One to keep AO 37.
But that's not confusing
it's
or anything.
Not at all. This is totally simple. The very last thing on the ballot has to do with whether or not to prevent 5-year contracts. Should Mark Begich II, i.e. Pat Flynn or Dick Cheney or Albie Gray Jackson or anybody else become mayor, to prevent them from signing 5-year contracts at the end of their term? It just is so obviously stupid. I mean, I remember how offended I was as I hadn't gotten a raise in a while. We're in the middle of this terrible recession in 2008, and all of a sudden they're giving 5 and 6 and 7% raises to people who are public employees. Mark Begich is, with 5-year guaranteed contracts. Like, that is unconscionable. That's just wrong. I mean, there's almost like a moral error here that's going on. They can't pay for your campaign and then you give them 5-year contracts in the middle of a recession when everybody else is hurting. And I would guess that if people thought through this and thought, should we be giving 5-year contracts? Should we be giving 5, 6, 7% raises every year, year after year after year? If you can buy a politician, that doesn't give you the right to steal from the rest of us. And so that's what this law is about. I believe that the law is a 70-30 law, that 70% of people will say, yes, it's wrong to give a 5-year contract in the middle of a recession when the rest of us are starving. And so but I don't know that the message is going to get out. I mean, the No 11 people, the union-backed people, have $800,000, I think, on the line here.
There's been a lot of money that's gone into it. But really, the way I look at it is AO 37 protects the homeowner and the property, the property owner, and not just the property owner, because even if you rent, that money gets passed down to you if they have to pay
You
it.
pay taxes.
You'll pay more.
If you're a renter, you're paying taxes.
Absolutely.
Your landlord doesn't separate that out.
No.
But trust me, part of the cost of renting you your apartment is to pay the taxes on that building.
So don't just think, oh, this doesn't affect me, I rent.
Well, I also think that it's better for public safety. It's better for our police and fire departments. You go out and look at the list of how much our police are making, especially at the top end, their last 3 years when they start padding, and you understand how ridiculous the one argument that they apparently want to talk about is the worst argument once you understand it that you can possibly imagine. Their argument is we need to control scheduling, meaning we need to control overtime. They also control the academies. So they determine when people get hired and when people don't get hired. That allows them to prevent new people from coming in so that they can give as much overtime to their buddies as they want. I mean, really, their arguments are so weak. I'm not surprised that they're not going to show up Friday. There is a UFL. They're having a professional debate person, and no one from the union. No one from the union. They're running scared with all their public money, because everything they get is public money, of course. And here they are. I think just a little while they were complaining that Don Young wasn't doing debates and things like that. You guys aren't going to do a debate. I don't ever want to hear that argument again.
And that surprises me because that side is so passionate. And, I mean, of course, when you're voting yourself other people's money, it's easy to be passionate.
Well, they deserve it. That's what people don't understand. That it's like $220,000. But the top, I think the mayor, between all of his compensations, is like 700th on the list. Or maybe it's 360th. I don't know. He's on page 3 or page 7.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, it's not even close. I'm not surprised they're not going to show up. First of all, Chris Birch is an excellent debater. He has all the information on this. He knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows the issue inside and out. And I have heard his presentations, and they're very convincing. And so I'm not surprised that they're running scared. I am surprised that they're cowards, frankly. To not even want to go into a forum that you don't have control over.
Well, they think they've won it already.
Maybe that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're just proud and they're like,
they have the most signage out.
Yeah. They've spent the most money. Anyway, right. Yes on one. If they're not going to show up, that's sad. I think it is truly sad. It's a new day in politics where the unions will not try and they won't even try to put forth a public argument on their side. All they're going to do is no on one, and if you don't, maybe we won't respond to your police call. Yeah, I don't like that argument. 6:58 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Fagan's out this week. Biegel, Bonnie, and Brian, the Buzz. Stay tuned. 6:58 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Fagan's out this week. Biegel, Bonnie, and Brian, the Buzz.
Got the best ingredients, the pizza comes out right. That's just what we're cooking for every appetite. Experience the flavor, call us right away. 24/7, it's a pizza party day.
October is National Pizza Month. Just hearing the word pizza brings a smile to almost everyone's face. And Sicily's Pizza wants to make you smile 5 times as big with their National Pizza Month special. Get as many as 5 medium 2-topping pizzas for only $9.99 each. Whatever style you like. For fast delivery, call 333-8000 and order the Sicily's National Pizza Month special. 333-8000 or order online at SicilysPizza.com. Best ingredients, best pizza, Sicily's.
Just call Sicily's Pizza. 333-8000.
Not just talk. Hot talk. KOAN Anchorage. 95.1 FM. 1080 AM.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. A second healthcare worker in Texas now isolated, sick with Ebola.
It may get worse before it gets better, but it will get better.
Mayor Mike Rawlings in Dallas, where Fox News Radio's Evan Brown's live.
Dave, this second healthcare worker at Texas Health Presbyterian here in Dallas went into the proper care mode upon her first symptom of possible Ebola infection, says County Judge Clay Jenkins.
Within 90 minutes of her temperature, of taking her temperature, she was in isolation in the hospital.
And then officials began informing her neighbors a cleaning crew would be showing up to decontaminate her apartment. Both this worker and nurse Nina Pham, also infected, are just two of the more than 70 workers possibly exposed to Ebola when caring for the Liberian man who died, Dave.
And a lot of 401ks are taking another beating this morning with a big sell-off that actually was a lot worse earlier. Fox Business Network's Adam Shapiro's here live.
Dave, just after the opening bell, the Dow dropped 370 points, but it rebounded off session lows and is now down 204 points. Investors are worried about a slowing global economy and problems here in the United States. September retail sales fell much more than expected, and inflation unexpectedly declined in September. Now, that may sound like good news for cash-strapped consumers, but it's actually a bad sign for the economy, Dave.
And Adam, battles in the streets of Kobani, reported by activists today as more U.S. airstrikes are also apparently helping Kurds fight the ISIS terrorist army's attempt to take over the Syrian border town.
We saw a mammoth triple strike from the U.S. jets. 3 bombs dropped simultaneously on the town of Kobani, right in the main square where we've seen so much fighting. A precision strike, a sign that the Kurdish fighters are coordinating with U.S. pilots.
That's Fox's Greg Palcott in nearby Turkey. There were 21 U.S. airstrikes yesterday. This is Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
Attention homeowners. I'm Jay Farner, president of Quicken Loans. We've told you about HARP in the past. There are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. It's simple and easy. And for 4 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. To learn more, call 800-QUICKEN.
Visit jdpower.com for award information. Important terms and conditions apply. Call us for cost information. Equal licensing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and MLS number 3030.
If you're looking for exhilaration, you've found it. Whether cruising the road with a Can Am Spider, pounding trails with Can Am ATVs and side-by-sides, or carving snow with Ski-Doo sleds, these machines are engineered to thrill and perform. During the Yellow Tag event, save up to $4,000 on select models, plus get up to a 4-year extended warranty and great financing. Visit employee-owned Alaska Mining and Diving Supply in Anchorage. Offer ends October 31st. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details. For safety and training info, contact the ATV Safety Institute.
There's a lot of so-called experts out there claiming to have the key to success in business for a price. Are you ready for real business advice you can trust without a fee? Then don't miss Getting Down to Business with David Weatherholt. Advice from people in the know. Technology, finance, taxes, and more. Business people helping business people take their skills and services to the next level. Getting Down to Business with David Weatherholt. Saturday from 8 to 10 a.m. on Hot Talk, KOAN, 95.1 FM and 1080 a.m.
In Washington, Mark Begich has voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time, adding trillions to the national debt, casting the deciding vote for Obamacare, and protecting Obama's executive amnesty for illegal immigrants. Alaska needs a senator who will fight back against Obama's agenda. As our Attorney General, Dan Sullivan sued to stop Obamacare and defended our Second Amendment rights. As Alaska's DNR Commissioner, Sullivan stood down Obama's EPA, unleashed new energy production, and created Alaskan jobs. Now Sullivan is running for the U.S. Senate to stop the Washington big spenders from bankrupting America. Sullivan will cut wasteful spending and support a balanced budget amendment. And Dan Sullivan is pro-life. He'll protect life while fighting to repeal Obamacare. Dan Sullivan, strong leadership for Alaska.
I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
Glen Biegel, you have beautiful teeth.
Why, thank you, Dan Fagan. That's because my family and I have gone to Dr. Dan Kiley for years.
I get scared at the dentist.
Dr. Kiley knows people like you are afraid, so he creates a relaxed atmosphere at his office. People actually like going to the dentist for Dr. Kiley.
I know it's important to have good dental health.
And you look better with good teeth. And Dr. Kiley offers cosmetic dentistry along with general care.
Visit Dr. Dan Kiley at lakeotisdental.com. Call him at 562-9209.
When Malarkey Mark Begich ran for U.S. Senator, he made a lot of claims about his record as Anchorage mayor. Begich knew the truth wouldn't come to light before the election. But now, history has caught up with Malarkey Mark. Under Begich, Anchorage taxes went up 27%. Under Begich, the city budget ballooned, a $142 million increase in spending. Under Begich, the city was saddled with unprecedented 5-year union contracts. Under Begich, a deficit of over $20 million was left for the next mayor to deal with. Begich left Anchorage in serious trouble. Alaska's Energy, America's Values paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
.706 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Amy Dembosky, an assemblywoman, is in studio with me as well. Welcome, Amy.
Good morning.
Always nice to see you. We're in the midst of high political season. Any of the races that you think will go differently than what people are looking at, or any comments or thoughts on those?
Well, you know, the big one, everybody's talking about Sullivan and Begich, and I think there was this assumption from the beginning that Begich just had it. I mean, I think personally what I saw when he became senator is he immediately started running for re-election.
Yeah.
And I think people just had this assumption that he was going to win, but I really think Sullivan could pull this out. And, you know.
Well, you get that sense because Begich, I mean, what are the arguments he's using in the paper right now? Oh, we need to sign this, we want to get national money out of politics pledge. Really?
Yeah, I was going to say.
If you weren't losing, do we really think that you would be saying that? Let's just be honest. That's ridiculous.
Well, and let's be honest about it, too. I mean, a lot of his money has come from the national scene.
Of course.
I mean, it's coming from the Reed PAC, and we know it. I mean, we're not dumb. So.
Now, if he was running for re-election, I mean, there are two things that I think are at war here, if that's the case. First of all, he's a liberal.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a left-winger. He voted with Obama 97% of the time. He believes virtually everything Obama believes. Every once in a while, he'll throw a bone, but he voted for all of his court appointees. He voted for all of his national nominations. Obviously, he's on the left. He voted for Obamacare. He didn't even ask for anything.
Well, exactly. If you want one step towards socialized medicine, just look to how Mark Begich voted.
So if he was running for re-election, he had to satisfy that first, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody denies that he's a leftist, you're not paying attention. There's nothing conservative about Mark Begich. There's nothing pro-development other than, I guess, the phone calls he makes after he passes bad laws about Mark Begich. So if he was running for re-election, he wasn't running as the senator for Alaska. He was running as the senator for Harry Reid.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you look at it, I mean, no one position has fundamentally changed our country as Mark Begich has in the U.S. Senate. I mean, that's just a fact.
Do you think he's ashamed for spending $7 trillion of my kids' money?
No.
Because it's for the greater good?
Well, because
that doesn't keep him up at night at all.
I don't think so.
Wow.
I mean, look what he did to the city finances. When Sullivan took over, virtually we were behind. Every bank account was empty. He had moved the utilities out from and under the tax cap, so all of our property taxes had exploded. He had tripled fines and fees. So, I mean, that's the agenda. It's where can we find more money and spend it? And it's redistribution of wealth. And that's why it's so important when you have conservatives, number one, you ensure that conservatives act like conservatives and spend other people's money very well. But number two, they have to be accountable. And unfortunately, Begich's record in the Anchorage level has been abysmal.
He's a tool of special interests. And that's who he served. I mean, he even promised before he left, if he had gotten elected, Ted Stevens had been indicted, convicted, and he got elected by a few thousand votes. And he even said, look, before I leave, I'm going to pass contracts, to the people who I serve, and those are the unions.
Well, he had passed contracts that weren't even up for negotiation yet.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just absolutely no question that the moves that were being made in anticipation. And in my view, it's probably not very nice to say, but in my view, it was definitely I'll do this for you if you do that for me. And you know, I hate questioning other people's motives, but in that case, I don't know what other conclusion someone can come to.
Well, let me put it this way, because that I think is an average person would conclude that, but I like to put it this way. I'll do this for you, you'll do this for me, right? You'll give me 150 grand, you will turn out your people to walk the streets, to make phone calls, to turn on your phone banks, to send 100 pieces of mail on my behalf as senator. I'll do something for you. I will give you contracts that this city has never conceived of, that it's never seen before, and in the middle of a recession, I won't even publish information to assembly members. Did L.B. Gray Jackson ever walk back her statement that I didn't know how much these contracts cost us?
I've never heard her do so.
Yeah, that was one of the most surprising admissions. She literally did not care, and all these things were draft anyway, right?
Oh well, many of the contracts that were passed were a stamp draft on them. So, you know, and that's the thing. It goes back to why are we in the situation we're in with AO 37 right now? It's specifically because of what Mark Begich had done in his administration. So when we talk about this labor ordinance, essentially what we're saying is when you pass a contract, it's not going to be more than three years. You're going to have to force a fiscal note to be attached to it. Because how can a lawmaker possibly pass something if they don't understand the financial consequences of it?
You know
it
what?
doesn't make sense.
I wanted something stronger than AO 37, and I realized, you know, it's unreasonable. You can't get everything you want, but I really wanted to prevent us from having mayoral contracts with the unions that extend more than 1 year past the mayor's term. Because when you elect a mayor, then you are saying, well, this is the way I want our municipal unions governed, right? And that's one of the powers that the mayor has. That power was largely stripped from Mayor Sullivan.
Sure. I mean, you're seeing the contracts that he's negotiating now it's the first bite at the apple, and he's towards the end of his second term. So, you know, right now he's successfully negotiated 7 of the 9 contracts, and the last 2 are the most expensive 2. It's police and fire. And, you know, that's why it's really important when you are electing a mayor that you understand what their framework is. And we know what we're getting with Dan Sullivan. We don't know what we'll get with the next mayor, depending who the next mayor is. That's why he wanted to put this framework in place.
Could be you.
It will be me, probably.
All right. Amy Dabowski running for mayor. She is an assemblywoman from Chugach-Eagle River, and we've got a lot to talk about. Politics is exploding, but so are things in our municipal situation. I think the biggest story that people just do not really understand and probably can't understand, crude oil collapse, the top of Drudge. It's gone from $110 a barrel. Brent crude is down below $90 a barrel now, and it could settle at around 80. We just don't know where it's going to go or where it's going to stay. But I want to talk to you about what that will mean, because there's revenue sharing that comes down from the state of Alaska.
Oh, it's going to have huge impacts municipality-wide.
Are we capable of handling this? I mean, in the end, you have to handle it because, you know, society can't end just because the government doesn't have as much money as it wants.
You can, but, you know, that's what it goes back to. You have to make sure whoever's in the leadership position has a strong foundation who understands the role of government. The role of government is not to be everything to everyone. It is to provide essential services, public safety, infrastructure, education opportunities. And I say it that way on purpose because we have to start looking at these paradigms and doing things differently. We have to let the private sector in. We have to let our citizens use innovation and technology in order to change the way we do things, because you know what, the world's a-changing and the government has to change with it, but the government has to understand their fundamental roles, and it is public safety, infrastructure, education.
Al Crow came after you about technological innovation, and I want to talk to you about that, whether or not it's a legitimate attack. I do get the sense he's sort of unplugged from a lot of things, but it looks like he's going to run for mayor along with everybody else. I'm not trying to attack Andrew Halcrow here, but I do want to bring up the situation with Uber. Amy Dabowski in studio with me. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Fagan's out this week. Love to hear from you. 569-1080. You're listening to KOAN and KVNT. Love to hear from you. 569-1080. You're listening to KOAN and KVNT.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give them a call, 569-1080, KOAN.
If you're ready for the movies, there's just one place to go. Check out movies8.com. It's your time. Movie times, reviews, and more. Get tickets, win stuff. Lots of information to explore. Great restaurants. Now you'll know just where to go before and after every show. Check out movies8.com. It's your time.
It's said that character is what you do when no one is watching. If that's the case, then Senator Kathy Giessel has the sort of character that is needed in Juneau. Away from the photo ops or flashy media events, Kathy Giessel hits the books just like she did in nursing school. For the past 4 years, Senator Giessel has worked hard for you, studying the impact of greater access to immunizations for Alaska's kids, crafting legislation that frees up business owners to expand and hire more Alaskans, and working to improve the infrastructure like roads and schools, not just for this generation, but for generations of Alaskans to come. This election is more than just about promises or bullet points. It's about sending the right person to Juneau with the character to act on behalf of us when we can't watch. We need someone with the character to do the hard work when no one is watching, to make decisions we can trust. We need to re-elect Senator Kathy Giessel.
Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giessel for Senate. 12701 Ridgewood Road, Anchorage, Alaska, 99516.
Wells Fargo has exciting news. Until November 16, 2014, customers can come in for a free credit score and complimentary credit report. That's almost as exciting as a credit tip sung by a barbershop quartet.
Your payment history is the biggest factor in your credit score.
Not bad, guys. Come into Wells Fargo for your free credit score and complimentary credit report. Wells Fargo.
Together we'll go far.
Wells Fargo Bank NA, member FDIC. See a banker for specific promotion details.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. The Talk of the Valley, KVNT.
7:17 a.m. KOAN KVNT. Love to hear from you. 569-1080 is the number. Amy Demboski is an assemblywoman. Have you decided you're going to run for mayor or not?
Oh, yes, I'm running. I'm actually actively fundraising right now. I haven't had my first fundraiser, but that hasn't deterred people from calling, volunteering, stopping, giving me money. I mean, it's been amazing, actually. I can't believe the response. And the nerve we've tapped into, it's basically people are sick and tired. They're tired of politicians who don't do what they say they're going to do. They're tired of either being not the voice of the taxpayer, and it's special interest, regardless of where it's coming from, and people are tired of it.
And I love what you said about essential services. That to me is a key word right there, because you don't hear very many politicians talking that way.
And the thing I can tell people, people will say, oh, well, you're not a lifelong politician. Exactly. That's exactly my point. I come from a business development and management background. I understand what my goal is, and I understand how to achieve it. And sometimes it means you got to talk to many different people, and sometimes you'll get nuggets of greatness that come from somebody you totally disagree with. But you have to be not prideful, first of all. You have to be willing to accept that. But you have to go back and understand, okay, this is the taxpayers' money. This is what they intend for us to do with it. And that's what you need to deliver. And all these other things, whether it's tennis courts, which I know we disagreed about a little bit, or whether it's centennial celebrations, or whether it's these things, I just go back to my framework and say, does this fit within my box? Is this the essential role of government? Now, if we were flooded in cash, we might say, okay, some of these other things we can do. But if we're struggling to provide those essential services, I'm sorry, but the answer is no.
Good.
Yeah.
That's why people love her. Well, and this is the part of it, because every movie we've ever seen, every political situation we've ever heard of, essentially starts with some special interest, goes through a politician, and then goes into a legislative process. So we're very unfamiliar with not dealing with special interests. How does that work with like the construction industry or the home builders industry or unions? If you are not a tool of a special interest, how do you approach them, and what do they think of that?
Well, I can tell you from my own experience, and this is where you'll see I'm not a typical politician because I say way more than I should. But when I declared for mayor, it was amazing the response I got from people. I mean, my phone the next morning, it just never stopped ringing or messages coming. And there was one industry, and I won't point them out on air necessarily yet, but there was one industry and only one industry that basically tried to twist my arm and get me to get out because they've already, for months, they've already said they've already promised my opponent that they were going to be backing him. And I said, well, that's great. I think that's, you guys do different business differently. I do the public's business in public, and that's where it'll stay. And do what you need to do, but I'm going to do what I need to do because I don't believe there's the voice of the taxpayer in the race. And I'm going to be that voice. If nobody else will step up and do it, I'll do it.
Well, I know it takes courage because, frankly, special interest has a lot more to gain than we individually have to lose. And over time, people have been convinced politics is just not something that decent people involve themselves
Well, and that paradigm's going to change. And that's the reason I ran for assembly. And that's why I say, the conversation I had with this particular group is they were already wanting to know who I was picking for department heads because it was going to be people that were going to affect their industry. They wanted to make sure, and I just refused to answer. And I said, because you know what? I haven't picked. I will set a vision for the city. I will look for good people that have integrity and have the taxpayer at the forefront. And those are the people that I'll entertain in my administration. And it's not going to be my buddy. It's going to be who really is best qualified and who shares the vision of Anchorage. And I think that's what people want. And I think it takes somebody who is willing to engage people, from whatever background they come in. But you have to have a different way of thinking.
What do you think is the top left-wing candidate out there?
Well, Dick Cheney has told me he's running, though until they actually declare, you never know. Elvie's considering it.
Will they make their decision before they go forward?
Well, yes, I think.
So they'll all get together because oftentimes what happens, Mark Begich ran against 9 other people.
Yeah.
He was the one left-winger on the ticket.
Well,
it's not like, how did that happen? It seems like that's a little bit contrived, and it was.
Well, and I have to tell you, Elvie has told me she's going to make up her mind after November 4th, and then. But she did say they're not going to do what they did last time and run multiple candidates. So I think they will.
She said that?
Oh, yeah, she told me that.
Who's they?
I'm assuming the members of the left. I think I know.
See, I've always thought I've gone to a couple of their meetings, by the way, and I know I've had reports of they have the environmentalists sitting around the table with the Democrats, and largely Democrats are, and the trial lawyers. They've got the union people. And they'll just say, okay, who's running in this race?
Right.
And if we can't find another candidate, we pick this guy. This guy's the one who runs. Because you can't just by random chance. There are way too many people on the left. There are a lot of proud people on the left. There are a lot of people who want to run for office. You can't possibly come up with as few contested races on the left like we have contested races on the right.
They're organized. And the thing that I have said about conservatives all along is conservatives tend to be very driven. They tend to be very type A personalities. You have a lot of business owners. You have a lot of people in management positions, And so it's very hard to tell a lot of type A's, okay, we have to pick just one of you because they all think they're the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes you get that.
Now, are you type A?
I am. I'll readily admit it. I'm completely OCD and type A.
That means you're driven. That means you are a perfectionist. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
way to not say controlling.
Yeah.
Well, controlling.
It's a good thing in some ways.
I believe in getting a job done, and I believe in having a vision, setting a goal, and working very hard to attain that. And I'm probably my worst critic. I always think I can work harder. I should get up earlier. But at the same
22 hours a day is really not enough, let's be honest. No, actually, I don't know what you're working, but it's probably 18 to 20 hours.
It's a lot. I was going to say, because on the assembly, most people think it's just this part-time gig, but if you're going to do it right, you need to be working at 50, 60 hours a week. And I do have a professional career, too. So, this weekend, Saturday night, I was working till 11:30, Sunday till 7:30. But you do what needs to be done to get the job done. And I have made this commitment when I decided to run for and be involved in public service. That is my number one priority in my professional life. So my bosses are very understanding. But at the same time, they recognize that public service is important to me. I made a 5-year commitment, and that's what I'm going to live up to. And beyond that, I don't know what will happen. But I truly believe we needed the voice of the taxpayer. And, I think that hasn't changed just because now the race is a mayor's race. We need someone who will do what they're going to say they're going to do and who will think about the taxpayers first.
And talking with Amy Domboski, 7:25 a.m. here on Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Dan Fagan is going to be back on Monday, so it's Biegel, Bonnie, and Brian, who is our producer over there. AO37 is on the ballot. You voted yes on it. Any parts of AO37 that you think maybe we should relook at, or is the law fine the way it is? In essence, what I'm looking for is what's the biggest complaint on the other side? I know unions literally hate, as Bonnie says, this mayor. I don't understand that. I think that's misplaced. I think that's wrong for them to do that. I don't think people should hate, because the mayor's not evil. He's looking for reasonable contracts, and your 5-year contracts are unreasonable.
I've never seen character assassination so bad before this, and they want so much to put people over to thinking that he's such a bad person instead of looking at what he's doing fiscally. Sure. To me, if the mayor is doing things fiscally responsible for the property owner and the taxpayers, to me, what is this character?
Why does that make him evil? Right.
Well, and you see it in some of their discussions when they're talking about staffing and scheduling and different types of things, because they're saying AO37 makes Anchorage unsafe. I mean, that's not true. It's a fiscal policy. When we're saying that if the tax cap can only grow 3% a year, we can't grow employment costs 6% a year. That's a fiscal policy that doesn't make Anchorage safe. In fact, it makes us more safe because it makes us stable. If you talk about asking for fiscal notes and contracts, that doesn't make us less safe. So the biggest thing that they're arguing is, in fact, when it comes to scheduling and staffing. And, I don't schedule myself at my work, and I don't decide staffing. I'm not the boss. I don't run the company that I work for. So the idea that I just don't understand it. I look at the Alaska Policy Forum and see 250,000, 240,000, 240,000, 230,000. There are a lot of policy or staffing and scheduling jobs that they're doing so ridiculously badly that I think they ought to be fired rather than rewarded by allowing to continue. Well, and I think if we're going to have the conversation about scheduling and staffing, we have to have an intellectually honest one, which means as conservatives, we also have to look at it and say, why are we paying somebody $100,000, $120,000 in overtime? Are we staffing appropriately? I think that's a conversation that needs to happen. I mean, and that's one that on the Budget and Finance Committee I've been pushing. It's, we saw it with paramedics. Paramedics are being mandatory overtime. Why? Because there's not that many of them. And you have to have your ambulances on the street. And what I found out, they were closing one ambulance, and then they're shifting ambulances from all over town to cover the need in that area. It tells me we're not doing our basics right. That public safety model, when we have to have ambulances respond, if we're having to close them in the mandatory overtime paramedics, that's a problem. And that's why I took out of the Assembly's budget, and I said, okay, you know what? The primary goal of government fundamentally is public safety. Let's take the money out of the legislative branch, and let's make sure we have enough paramedics. And that's why I say we have to have these discussions and say, okay, let's look back at our model, and let's just decide, are we doing this right? So I think when it comes to the fire department specifically, they're afraid if management has 100% control over staffing that they're going to start running 2-man fire engines. And is that safe for the public? I don't think so. But have I had discussions with the mayor about it? Yes. And he said, I would never do that. That would be political suicide.
I know, exactly.
I've heard one person fire trucks.
Well, oh yeah, see, or cross staffing, and I can understand why they're afraid of that, because they recognize the impact to the service they provide. But I can tell you from a political standpoint, there's no way I would allow it.
And it's an irrational fear. That's the thing. People want you to be safe when you're doing your job because that makes the public more safe. Yeah, I know. It's just us versus them. Amy Domboski, can you stay with us?
Sure.
All right. She'll be back. 7:29 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, 569-1080. Love to hear from you. She'll be back. 7:29 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, 569-1080.
And now, the Fox News Business Report, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Anchorage.
the best or nothing.
From the Fox Business Network, stocks remain sharply lower on concern about a global economic slowdown and Ebola. At around 11 a.m. Eastern, the Dow Industrials were down 223 points. Bonds are rallying as investors flee risky assets. The yield on the 10-year Treasury plunged below 2% for the first time in 16 months. Retail sales fell by a larger than expected amount from August. Separately, inflation at the wholesale level unexpectedly declined in September, the first drop in over a year. Time Warner is one exception to the sell-off, with shares rallying more than 2%. The media giant says it will more than double earnings in the next several years. Time Warner says it expects to earn $6 a share by 2016 and $8 by 2018. Time Warner rejected a takeover bid from 21st Century Fox, the parent of Fox Business. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Adam Shapiro.
Warning, you must have your solar system up and running by midnight December 31st, or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Energy prices are expected to increase by as much as 40% in the near future. Go solar now with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. The door of opportunity is about to slam shut. Call 1-800-MY-SOLAR now for a free in-home assessment.
My home, my savings, 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. Funeral services have been held for the longtime public radio music host who was killed earlier this month, allegedly by his teenage foster son. Family and friends grieve for 64-year-old Marvel Johnson, who was described as having a heart for the teenage boys in foster care no one else would take. Uber Technologies is no longer allowed to offer its ride-sharing app in Anchorage, and Kenda explains why.
For now, Uber cannot offer rides in Anchorage via an app that allows people to order up a ride in a privately driven car instead of a taxi. A Superior Court judge issued an injunction barring the rides unless the company is going to use regulated vehicles and comply with local transit laws. The case was brought by the municipality of Anchorage and supported by local taxi companies.
When you see news happening, email news@1080koan.com. That's your Hot Talk News update.
You can expect a blend of clouds and sunshine today, high 41, mostly cloudy tonight, low 31. We'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow's high 44, high Friday 42, Saturday's high 43. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather. KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
There is in every true woman's heart a spark of heavenly fire, which lies dormant in the broad daylight of prosperity, but which kindles up and beams and blazes in the dark hour of adversity. The 2014 Alaska Women's Summit, the University of Alaska, Anchorage College of Health, U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski and State Senator Liesl McGuire are calling on Alaska's brightest women to come together to work on finding answers to the toughest questions facing Alaskan women and families. Join us for 2 days, October 16th and 17th, focusing on building communities of change, self-advocacy, and removing the glass ceiling. Learn how empowerment and mentorship are vital tools in fostering successful young women. Presented by GCI, also sponsored by Saltsha, ConocoPhillips, and BP. Register online today, AlaskaWomenSummit.com. The 2014 Alaska Women's Summit. Come and spark your fire.
Here's my good friend, Keith Montronock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help. Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
Do you remember that Beatles song? If the rain comes, they'll run and hide their heads.
You know which one I'm talking about. Well, if that's you and you're inside your home or office, it's time to call Earhart Roofing. Call Earhart Roofing for all your roofing needs. Flat or pitched, large or small, Earhart Roofing will do the job quickly, and they'll do it right. Earhart Roofing, big enough to serve you and still small enough to care. Call 345-5555. That's 345-5555.
When I grew up, I wanted to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher. Oh, an Olympic gymnast.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything from auto and home insurance to financial planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream. For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give them a call, 569-1080. KOAN.
$7:35 a.m. Let me tell you about my good friends over at Earhart Roofing. You know, Better Business Bureau Business of the Year is an amazing accomplishment. And for a roofing company, it's just unheard of because it's a difficult industry. There's so many things that, you know, whether it's a delay, whether it's making too much noise, whether it's making a mess. Earhart Roofing winning the Better Business Bureau Business of the Year was an accomplishment of a lifetime. But it's an indication of how good these guys really are. They are the best in roofing. Almost always the lowest bidder, but always the best choice. 345-5555. I just hope that you give them a chance to win your business, and they can do any roof. You know, commercial, industrial, residential. It doesn't make any difference. Fast, efficient, and caring. Go out to their website, earhartroofing.com. Give them a call, 345-5555. In studio with me, Amy Dembosky. She has decided to run for mayor. And is the rise a little too swift? Do you feel like you're not prepared for the ins and outs of political life here in Anchorage?
I'm probably a little over-prepared, to be honest. And that's I think, the interesting thing. I mean, obviously, anybody who steps into the mayor's office, it's probably a bigger budget, a bigger job than anybody has seen. I mean, very few people in the country can say they walk in.
Basically, it's a billion-dollar corporation with 3,000 employees.
It is. It's a big job. There's no question. And I take that responsibility not lightly. Let's put it that way. It took me a long time before I would say yes, because I was asked numerous times and I kept saying no. But then I just realized, you know, there's things that are bigger than yourself, and there's personal sacrifices that need to be made for to serve the community you love. And I just decided, you know, it's time to do it, and I'm going to do it because I didn't feel like the conservatives were being represented.
What I saw as I watched you on the assembly was you thought carefully about your positions, and you always stayed true to your principles, which to me that's the primary attribute of the right kind of politician. You know, the left always gets that. Their people stay true to their positions. They don't waver. They don't waffle. They know who they're there to serve. It's got to be difficult and a little daunting, though, and we're going through AO37. Your husband is a firefighter, is that right?
Yeah, he is.
And I guess it's gotten heated for him.
It has a little bit.
Are high, I bet.
Tensions are high. Yep, it has been. He's stoic, though, and he says he fully supports me, and he recognizes, you know, when I ran for the assembly, I ran when AO37 was being debated, and I clearly told people that I supported it. And I would vote for it because did I think it was perfect? Probably not. But did I think the fiscal parameters of it were sound? Absolutely. And do I think that's my number one priority is fiscal policy? Yes, it is. And so I supported it. I've never wavered from that. I was elected on that platform, and I've held firm. You know, it's been repealed twice. I voted to uphold the mayor's veto twice. And so my husband is a public safety employee. He is represented by one of the unions, and I have consistently voted to uphold AO37 because I believe in the long term, not just for the taxpayers, but for the employees, it creates stability. So this is something that I truly believe is not just a benefit for just the taxpayers of Anchorage, it's a benefit for the city and the employees. I mean, it's a stable fiscal environment.
What does he say about and I think it's 20 or 30 people in the fire department who make well over $200,000 a year.
Sure. Well, I don't know what he says about that specifically, but I can tell you personally, what I know is these guys are working 56-hour work weeks, and the guys that you see that are pulling those very big salaries, it's because they're working a lot of overtime. Now, unlike the police department, the fire department has a rotational overtime list, so not the most senior officers can pick it. But one of the biggest problems we have is a lot of those guys are paramedics. And we know paramedics are mandatory overtime because we have a shortage of them. So that's why,
How did that happen? I mean, is this, I know for the police union, I know specifically, I know it for a fact, Wirtz begged the police union people who control the academies, give me a full academy. They wouldn't. They would give them a half-full academy every time, just enough officers to replace the leaving officers. They would not do what he asked. As soon as Begich came in, they gave him a full academy. They gave him a full academy, then another full academy, then a half, then a full. I know for a fact that they're playing around with the numbers. Now, how does that work in the fire unit? And I'm not saying that they do the same thing. I'm just giving a little bit of background here for when you leave scheduling and staffing up to a union, they can play games, and it's not games that make the public safer.
Sure, I understand that, and I think that's so I'll shift a little bit, and I'll say that's where it goes back to the mayor, because I truly believe the mayor has the ability to have department directors in place that are looking out for the taxpayer, and I'm not interested in hiring people that are going to agree with me all the time. I want people who are going to give me an honest picture of what's happening so I can make an informed decision. And I think the mayor, through the police chief, through the fire chief, I think they have a lot of leverage in order to fill those academies, because ultimately comes down to and this is where with AO 37, the management is constantly saying we need more control over staffing and scheduling, because ultimately they're responsible for the delivery of service, right? Who's going to be held accountable if a fire truck doesn't respond to a fire? It's going to be the administration.
Yeah.
So I can see that side of it, and I agree. I think the mayor has to be able to control many aspects of it, and that's why I say. But it goes down to, we just got through a budget season, and I've heard from multiple APD, or we're just starting a budget season rather, and I've heard from multiple APD cops that say we're understaffed, and I have concerns. I've heard of different staffing numbers in the last couple of weeks that are alarming, and then when you sit and talk to the police chief, it's a rosy picture of, yeah, we're good, we're fine. And I think when we don't have a traffic unit, when we don't have a theft unit, essentially, our burglary unit, it's pretty much been absorbed into patrol. I look back and I'm like, I'm not convinced that we're fine. And I don't want somebody just to tell me we're fine. I mean, if we are, great. But if we're not, we need to have that candid conversation. So that's
Do you
why
think he's having those candid conversations with the mayor?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he probably is.
Amy
I would
Dabowski,
assume.
by the way, is Assemblywoman from Chugachigo River, and is it Chugachigo River?
Chugiak.
Chugiak.
Yeah.
Having been born
But
here,
we're
why
right.
do I not know that?
We border the Chugach State Park, which is another controversial issue going on right now, is the access plan.
Yeah, well, we do need to get that. Obviously, O37 is a big deal. Please vote yes, Amy, and is a vote yes on Prop 1. It's the one at the end of the ballot. But there are a lot of other issues going on. You listen to Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie on KOAN, KVNT 569 1080. So the government is always looking for a way to sort of, without public comment and really without respecting rights, and the government sees itself as having super rights. And the Chugach State Forest and the access process for that is another example of how, without people who really at their core have strong beliefs, that government needs to be limited, and that private property is really all we have as people.
Right.
That if we don't have that person in there, it will make a big difference. Your story here and your example with Chugach State Forest is a great example of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it is. So the Chugach State Park has an access plan where they want to create park access about every quarter of a mile throughout the municipality of Anchorage from Girdwood to Chugach. So what we have found is this plan, which has already closed public testimony, but should be on the Assembly's docket the 21st, or the next meeting, the last meeting in November for action, is basically it wants to force private property owners, if they have a planning or platting action, to have to grant an easement or a right-of-way through their property so people can access the
We'll
park.
talk about this because I think when people think about this, well, that doesn't seem so bad, but we'll get into the details here. You can say one more?
Sure.
All right. Amy Domboski, she's working all the time. Stay tuned, folks. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Say one more?
Sure.
All right. Amy Domboski, she's working all the time. Stay tuned, folks. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie.
Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Hi, my name is Mike Ferris, president of Alaska Enterprise Solutions. We are the face of Xerox in Alaska. Xerox is a trendsetter, and AES Xerox is following in those footsteps. We are the document management experts, specializing in short-term rentals of copiers and scanners. We have offices in Anchorage and Fairbanks, and we are your Xerox professional agency with an Alaska focus and worldwide support. You can reach us at aesalaska.com or 561-5100.
Trail Boss Solutions is your local award-winning, nationally recognized construction and remodel firm. From handyman services to kitchen design and remodel to custom home construction, Trail Boss Solutions has the experienced professionals to take your project from initial design through completion, on time and on budget. Trail Boss Solutions is the only call for all your construction, design, and remodel needs. Please visit us on the web at trailboss-solutions.com or contact Trail Boss Solutions direct at 646-1403.
Hot Talk KOAN. On with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
$7:46 a.m. KOAN KVNT 569-1080. Amy Domboski in studio with us. Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie. Fagan's out this week. He'll be back on Monday. And I've watched your rise through the assembly, and I agree with you that you are ready to look at mayor because you didn't just sit in the flow and wait for it to move you along. You directed things and you made things happen.
Well, and I had been counseled when I first got on multiple times, and I won't say by which assembly member, but multiple times that while they were on the assembly the first year, they didn't speak. And I just kind of chuckled at that. I said, well, that's not how I operate. And I think in a year and a half, I've probably accomplished more than some members that have been there 5 years. And it's because I feel like if I'm going to sit in the people's seat, I better do my job. And if the day comes where I'm too lazy to do it or I'm not willing to fall on the sword for the taxpayer, I need to leave. It's just that simple. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I grew up in the Reagan era. And I was one of those kids that was mesmerized watching him on TV. And I remember when I decided to get involved, I kept saying, where's that person that I'm going to get behind? I want to see politicians and leaders that inspire me to want to be a better person and to contribute. And when you miss that, when you don't have that, it's time that you have to look at your priorities and say, why am I here? And what can I give? And if I'm not willing to sacrifice, then I can't criticize anybody else.
Well, you certainly have been willing to sacrifice. You put in an enormous amount of effort, I would say more than any assembly member that I've seen recently, and frankly, I'm proud to have you on the program here. Decided to run for mayor. Halcro came out, said something odd. I want to get back to the Chugach access plan here in a minute, but Halcro came out and said that he was sort of challenging you, I guess, as to whether or not you were going to back the taxi ownership model, which we've had up till now, or add to that the ability for people to directly contract for somebody else to give them a ride. What's your approach on this, and why is Halcro citing you and not Pat Flynn and not, I don't know who he would cite.
Well, I suspect it's probably because he's going to be running for mayor, but, and it goes back to being engaged for a while, because last year when the taxi cab ordinance came up, I was very critical of it. And I made it very clear that I wasn't content with it, and that I thought it was going to be something we need to revisit. And so actually before the city actually brought Uber to court, I co-sponsored legislation to suspend portions of Title 11 so the city could engage with Uber and make it an option. And so, to me, it's kind of I don't know, there's really not much there because I've already actually been working on it before it ever hit the papers.
Well, he may not have known that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Well, and the important thing here to know is there are a lot of things that are changing politically because things are changing so dramatically technologically.
Well, and that's it. We have to be willing to engage new ways of doing things, new ideas, new technology. I mean, the travel industry is so different. How many travel agents do you know? You know,
Not many anymore.
I use Orbitz or Travelocity. You know, I get on and I look for that little roaming gnome, and I say, okay, where am I? You know, I don't get to travel very often because I don't take very many.
You don't
vacations.
travel with a roaming gnome.
So, speaking of the technology and stuff, I keep hearing about SAP and how. What is the deal with the SAP?
Okay, so and here's
SAP.
SAP. It's a
yes, not sap off a tree. SAP. What does it stand for?
So it's a software accounting program.
Okay.
And what it is, and this is again why I say we need politicians that aren't going to blindly follow one side or the other. So in 2011, the city engaged in a new timekeeping and software accounting program. And during those times, you know, initially between the two programs, we thought it'd cost about $10 million. Well, in fact, here we are, 2014. It hasn't fully gone live yet, and we're over $31.6 million. And, you know, basically what it came down to, this new CFO comes in and gives us a new version, a new view of where we're at. And basically she says it's going to cost more money. It's going to take more time, and in the end, they don't know it's going to completely work.
So where does it go from here?
And so, well, I've introduced a resolution in order to fully audit it because my position is this. I feel like I haven't gotten the candid, straightforward, full analysis of what's going on, and I'm not willing to give one more penny of taxpayers' money until, number one, we can identify that we truly know the challenges in this, and those challenges can be mitigated. Because I'm not going to just keep throwing money at something that's going to fail. You know, it's, you know, and that's as a legislator, as the assembly who's responsible for the budget, we have to go back and say, you know what, now it's my responsibility. We gave you $31 million to try to implement what you thought was this $10 million program, and you haven't delivered.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to make sure that we can identify why, and we can identify the tools we need to make sure you can deliver, whoever the mayor is going to be. But you know, we've missed the go live deadline 3 times.
Wow.
The budget's 3 times as big as it was, and that's why I say, you know, this to me isn't a conservative or a liberal. This is a responsibility of the elected officials, and when you realize there's an issue, it's time to put the brakes on and say, you know, so I've asked for an independent review, and that'll come up for debate on the 21st.
Right.
And on the same agenda, the administration's asking for another $3 million loan for SAP.
Well, and it's really difficult for me to defend AO37 when people see the waste in this SAP.
Sure. And you know, to be honest, you know, we had another contractor that started with the program, and we have since gotten rid of them, and we have a different contractor that's come in to implement. So the new contractor who's here, you know, I'm hopeful that they can deliver. But there has been issues that have come up, and it's not just we paid this much and this hasn't worked. We really have had significant changes within the implementation team.
Well, here's, you know, there's a lot in the behind the scenes here. First of all, just about every municipality, state, local, federal agency was convinced a while ago that they would be able to save money by spending money to get these new systems. That's just universally not true. They always end up costing much more, and this is what I like about the fact that you are of a different generation who has heard a lot of promises of technology, knows that some of them work, but generally they have to be well managed.
They have to be, and you have to have fail-safes built in place. So when you realize as a manager, when I all of a sudden realize my budgets are exceeding my profit margins, and I'm saying, oh, wait a minute, that should be a red flag before you ever get to the red zone. You should be able to have triggers in place to identify that. And I think with SAP, you know, last year there was a potential for you know, a reevaluation, and I was convinced by the administration if we did that, it would stall it. They would miss the go live deadline, all these things, and so I gave them the benefit of the doubt once.
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Right.
And
that's reasonable.
You know, and the fact is, you missed the go live deadline, and now you want more money, and the answer is no until I can be convinced you can deliver.
So, what are your thoughts on the Connect Bridge?
Well, you know, we look around in Anchorage, and we're locked with mountains on one side, the inland on the other. And the one thing we know is when land is available, it becomes developed, rent becomes cheaper, people can afford housing, and I think it becomes the engine of the economy. And so I think I have been a proponent of the Connect Bridge. I think it'll be a good thing for families. I think it'll be a good thing for the economy. And so, you know, I say build it. I've never thought it should necessarily be a toll bridge. I mean, the government's job is to build infrastructure. So
really, that's the first time I've heard that.
Let's build infrastructure. I mean, you know, when they built the Golden Gate Bridge, how many people were on the other side? Mm-hmm. You know, you look at some of these things and you say, if you build it, they will come. And when you look at Connect Bridge, and you stand at Point McKenzie, it is right across the inlet from downtown Anchorage.
So close.
If you build that, I guarantee you're going to see massive amounts of development. And I think it'll be good for homeowners in Anchorage because, in renters, because you'll see people who come in who can actually afford to rent, and they don't have to live with 6 roommates.
It's astronomical right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jean, welcome to KOAN, KVNT. You're on with Amy Domboski.
Good morning. I have a very difficult time believing in Mayor Dan Sullivan. You mentioned the payroll system, SAP. That was his baby, and he was told that it is not working. Early on, he was told, and yet he continued to put money into it, and now he's asking for $3 million, was it, Amy?
Yes, ma'am.
Borrow from Wells Fargo Bank for that same program that was failing, and he was told about long ago. And then the issue with the 55,000 square foot tennis facility, it's very difficult for me to have faith in him. And thank you so much for listening to me.
Appreciate it, Jean.
Thank you for your comments, Jean. You know, and that's why I say I think we do best when we are independent thinkers, and we challenge people to do better, and we challenge people to question themselves because, you know, Jean, I had the same reservations about the tennis facility. I didn't support it because I knew the roof at the Sullivan Arena was leaking, and I couldn't justify spending $10 to $12 million when we weren't fixing the buildings we had. With SAP, there's no question. You know, they thought they could gain efficiencies by implementing this program, but the fact is we haven't fully implemented it yet, and it's cost 3 times as much. So we need just to stop. We need to not be prideful. We just need to be intellectually honest and say, okay, what are the pitfalls? Where can we go? We know we need some sort of software, but the question is, do we invest more in what we have, or is it not going to work? And do we need to go a different direction?
Because it failed in California. Is that where
it's failed in multiple communities?
Wow.
It's failed in multiple communities. Now, some communities have successfully implemented it. So, you know, and to me, this isn't about blaming anyone,
right.
but it's
at
about
what point do you say, I made a mistake, this is wrong, let's find something else?
Right, or, you know, the direction we thought we were going to go in, it's just not working. We need to go somewhere else. And that's why I say, to me, this is about an independent view, somebody coming in, looking at the program, looking at the management of the program, and saying, okay, there's your pitfalls. These are the options you have to mitigate them.
Mm-hmm.
Amy Domboski running for mayor, assemblywoman from Chugiak and Eagle River. Great to have you in.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciated it.
It was very eye-opening. It's very eye-opening to hear somebody with a different point of view and just completely unafraid, because most of the things that you actually have said here are stepping on somebody or other's toes.
You know, and that's it. You have to be afraid to be a leader. You have to be afraid
be
to not be afraid to be a leader.
7:58
yeah, exactly.
a.m. Stay tuned.
Not be afraid to be a leader.
7:58 a.m. Stay tuned.
Here at the hospital, $25 enrollment, 1-year agreement required. Fee for early cancellation expires April 30th.
My name is Mary Crafts, and this is how I live united. I've spent the last 24 years serving others in my catering company, but I felt that a huge part of our community was still being underserved. Those invisible children and young families. With United Way, I advocate for them any way I can. As a volunteer, I go into people's homes and assess mother and infant well-being and help bring change and opportunity into their lives. Nothing feels as good as helping, so I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
KOAN, where you hear the news and talk that affects your life on Hot Talk and Breaking News. 95.5 FM and 1080 AM. KOAN Anchorage. It's not just talk, it's hot talk. 95.1 FM, 1080 AM.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Lisa Brady. The second healthcare worker infected with Ebola in Texas was on a plane the day before symptoms began. That revelation has the CDC reaching out to other passengers. Fox News Radio's Evan Brown is live in Dallas.
Lisa, this new Ebola patient is now isolated at the hospital here, and crews have started decontaminating her apartment. But now officials reveal the patient flew from Cleveland to Dallas-Fort Worth the day before she got a fever, and the CDC wants to talk with every passenger on that aircraft. There were 132 people flying besides the patient and perhaps crew. The flight was Frontier Airlines number 1143 on this past Monday, October 13th. If you were on that flight, call 1-800-CDC-INFO. The CDC needs to speak with you. Lisa?
Meantime, Eben, that air travel raising new questions. It's not clear whether that healthcare worker was one of the workers being monitored. The CDC scheduled to hold a briefing 1 hour from now. The Pentagon just confirming the name of the war on ISIS in Iraq and Syria. It's Operation Inherent Resolve. Meantime, Egyptian warplanes bombing Islamist militants in Benghazi. This report from 2 Egyptian government officials to the Associated Press. Libyan ground troops also said to be taking part. No word on whether those militants belong to any specific group. Another major sell-off on Wall Street, the Dow down 250 points.
You have a few reasons as to why this is happening. Number one, the global economic slowdown. That has been front and center. There's been a theme on Wall Street, a concern on Wall Street, and has been weighing on Wall Street.
Fox Business Network's Nicole Petalides says ISIS and Ebola jitters also fueling it. Hurricane Gonzalo now a Cat 4 as it churns toward Bermuda. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Attention homeowners. I'm Jay Farner, president of Quicken Loans. We've told you about HARP in the past. There are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. It's simple and easy. And for 4 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. To learn more, call 800-QUICKEN.
Visit jdpower.com for award information. Important terms and conditions apply. Call us for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and MLS number 3030.
If you're looking for exhilaration, you've found it. Whether carving snow or pounding trails, Ski-Doo snowmobiles and Can Am ATVs and side-by-sides are engineered to perform and thrill. And right now, during the Yellow Tag event, save up to $2,000 on select models. Plus, get up to a 2-year extended warranty and great financing. Visit Team CC in Eagle River and Wasilla. Offer ends October 31st. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details. For safety and training info, contact the ATV Safety Institute.
The flu, pneumonia, whooping cough, hepatitis A, shingles, meningitis, tetanus. That's a scary list. But did you know immunizations can protect you from every one? You didn't? Well, we do. Rite Aid pharmacists are certified to immunize against the most common preventable diseases. Find out what immunizations you need with a free immunization evaluation at Rite Aid today. With us, it's personal. Availability and age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacist for details.
Alaskans have waited decades for a natural gas pipeline. But now, we've made historic progress on Alaska's gas line, thanks to the leadership of Governor Sean Parnell. Engineers are designing the line right now. We have the gas, we have the route, and we have the offtakes to supply energy for Alaska communities. But Bill Walker doesn't like it. He called the Alaska LNG project fatally flawed. and wants to study the plan or renegotiate it, which will add years of delays and could kill the gas line altogether. Look at Walker's track record. For years, he's pushed a pipeline plan that had no permits, no gas, no sellers, and no buyers. The Alaska LNG project is underway. Let's stick with the plan that's working and the governor who's making it happen, Sean Parnell. Paid for by Parnell Sullivan 2014, Box 100719 Anchorage.
All my life, I've enjoyed hunting and fishing, but as I got older, it made it harder to enjoy the Alaskan outdoors. Thanks to Chugach Chiropractic, I'm back on the stream enjoying Alaska.
Besides aligning the spine, we also deal with the musculature and the nervous system of the body. To do that, we not only adjust the spine, but we also balance muscles along with various therapies and deep tissue therapy. Help bring the body back to normal function.
Alaska's Energy, America's Values, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com.
Mark Begich is unbelievable.
Washington thinks it knows what's best for Alaska, and that's what I'm fighting against every day.
Fighting? Begich voted for all Obama's appointments, like Sally Jewell as Secretary of the Interior. Jewell immediately said no to exploration in Anwar and no to a King Cove road. Begich didn't fight Washington. He rolled over, like he rolled over for Obamacare. Now Begich is trying to duck and hide. On Obamacare, on oil taxes, on cap and trade, on the IRS scandal, even on Anwar. How can you deliver Anwar, Mark, when Harry Reid says a Democrat-controlled Senate will never allow an Anwar vote? Alaskans can't trust a thing Begich says. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
A life of ease. Well, we don't get a life of ease, but we do hopefully get a life that's pain-free. Chugach Chiropractic Massage Center can be a big part of that. If you have not had one of their half-hour or hour massages, their massage therapist is unbelievable. Not expensive. Chiropractic care is basically the last bastion of affordable health care that we have. They're not looking to do surgery. They're not looking to drug you up or figure out how to cover over pain. They're looking to figure out what's wrong with you and how do we address it. They've done many things for me over the last several years. If I've used them, I've gone to a chiropractor really a lot of my life when I was young, and then I started again just a few years ago. But Chugach Chiropractic, if you haven't tried them, I really do suggest you give them a call, 694-9224. Go visit them and have them work through some of the issues that you might be feeling. You know, whether it's pain, a pain in the lower back, pain in your upper shoulders, a lot of things they can do, plus their massage. Amazing. 694-9224, Chugach Chiropractic and Massage. I'd like to go through some headlines here. What do you think of Amy, by the way?
I really liked her. I'd never heard her speak before.
And this is one of the difficulties for people who are sort of new to politics. She's an old soul, if I may, because she understands herself and the purpose and role of government, I would say, better than 99, maybe even 99.9% of all other politicians.
Oh, I think they understand it. They just won't do it.
No, I don't. I mean, when you understand the role of government, you say the government is in this box. This is the box the government's in. 99% of politicians have never said this is the box the government's in. What they'll say is this is the box government might be in most of the time.
You don't usually hear them say government's role is essential services.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that I know.
Or
personally.
If they do say it, they don't mean it.
Right.
She actually meant it. By the way, the discussion you just heard about SAP was one of the most courageous discussions I've ever heard a conservative say, because it really calls into question that our assembly is not just a passive board. It is a management board. It is a check and balance. The lies that were told by SAP and the people, the consultants who were selling SAP, were lies that were told across the country to every single level of government, every organization. Everybody's heard these lies. They had magazines who tell the lies. They had CIO magazine to tell the lies. They had every technical magazine, everything. Everybody was lying in exactly the same way. Everybody bought the lie. The lie was, if you spend this small amount of money, we are going to save you so much money. You guys are going to pay the system back in 2 years. Oh, by the way, it turns out it costs 3 times. And we're probably, I'll be willing to bet you this, the mayor has prevented this from being a $50 or a $70 million project. The $30 million is a lot less than other people have paid based on the number of employees that they have. That's how big the lies are here.
Wow.
But for her to come out and say, I'm not a passive passenger in a vehicle called SAP.
Yeah, she said once I was reasonable.
Wasn't
and
that
now
an amazing?
I'm done.
I've never even heard a politician say that. I've
right.
never heard somebody. She understands she's in a leadership role, not a passive role.
She has a responsibility to the people of Anchorage.
Well, Frank, it gives me chills. It honestly does. It gives me chills. Cherise Millette will be with us here. We'll be talking with her about what I will consider to be one of the most difficult times in legislative history is the next couple of years. I expect for there to be high partisanship from the Democrats and the Republicans trying to figure out how to guide the ship through troubled waters. And troubled waters, what I mean by that, change is very difficult. It is enormously difficult because a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. They live hand to mouth. They get a check from the government. They go spend it on food. They don't know any other way. They're not sure what they'll do. They don't have skills. They don't have life skills. They don't have educational skills. Change is painful. We are going to go through change like I don't know that we've ever seen. We're going to go from a 5.9, actually a $6.3 billion budget, and it will go down to about a $5 billion budget. Maybe, somewhere around there. This isn't, oh, gee, we're just going to eliminate some positions we haven't filled. Okay, you've got $50 million back. Now what? This isn't, well, gee, we're not going to build this building. Okay, you've got $20 million more back. Now what? This is, we don't have a capital budget. Now we still have $700 million left to cut. This is, we can't afford to increase the budget next year or the year after. I mean, depending on what oil does, and this is the unspoken big story. I don't know that it's hit here with people, but there's been essentially a collapse in the price of oil. It's gone from $110 a barrel to somewhere around 90, below 90. Well, the state at that level, first of all, we're taking in more money under Senate Bill 21, so if state income is what we're worried about, that's good. But secondly, we're way short. We're going to change life in Alaska. If we don't have conservatives and we don't have a Republican Senate, because I think our screams of anguish, which are going to be coming, will be heard in Washington, D.C., as long as there aren't true believers. If you believe in global warming and the end of the world is on its way here and that we have to stop it by stopping carbon, right? Essentially, carbon development is economic development. You take down trees, carbon goes into the air. You do a mine, carbon goes into the air. You do a road, carbon goes into the air, right? I mean, Alaska's lifeblood is carbon going into the air. If that's your priority, and believe me, that is Mark Begich's priority, that is his religion, then you can't, in the end, you can't allow for Alaska to survive this. We have to have a Republican Senate. I think that's well on its way. I look at the weakness of the arguments coming out of the Begich's team. Actually, there was a very shocking one today that I went to the extent of commenting on, and it has to do with who's an Alaskan. Talk of Sullivan's Alaska status echoes an old question, and it's actually an attack by Michael Carey, who is a member, he's a columnist for the Alaska Dispatch News.
And then he's writing an opinion piece.
And he's writing an opinion piece in his own paper.
No bias there.
At least he's being honest, because everything he does, you should know, is an opinion piece in his paper. Anyway, it's one of the most ridiculous arguments that I've ever heard. How the counter-argument, of course, is, how can Begich be Mr. Alaska if he votes with Obama 97% of the time? Answer, he can't. He's not. He's not Mr. Alaska for natives. He's not Mr. Alaska for non-natives. He's not Mr. Alaska for Southeast. He's not Mr. Alaska for South Central. He's not Mr. Alaska for Western Alaska. He's not Mr. Alaska for North Alaska. He's not Mr. Alaska.
Obama would make this whole state a national park if he could. The whole thing.
They are doing it. They took half of Anwar and they won't allow directional drilling. These are true believers.
And that's who he supports.
Right. And so, that is critical. It's very critical for us to have that. But beyond that, talking with Charisse Millette, I wanted to find out about her race, how she thinks politics is going to turn out. But we really do have to figure out how are we going to approach this huge budget deficit. 8:14 a.m., Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. How are we going to approach this huge budget deficit? 8:14 a.m., Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie.
There, give him a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
This is Dr. Ellenberg. Are you tired of taking medications? Do your medications create more side effects than solutions? Do you want more than 15 minutes with your doctor? If you answer yes to those questions, you should consider calling the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine. At our center, we take the time to listen and focus on finding the cause of your health problems. Whether you have a cold, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, we can help. Call the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine at 563-2366 or visit us online at drellenberg.com. We can help.
911, please hold. 911, please hold.
Anchorage has 80 fewer cops on duty than it did 5 years ago, even though the city is bigger. More people, less coverage. Emergency vehicles get pulled from the hillside or Eagle River to cover Midtown when there are multiple accidents or ambulance calls. And that may mean a much longer response time for somebody who needs help. AO 37 removes police and firefighters from the discussion about staffing and equipment. Their experience is ignored, replaced by someone who doesn't understand what swift water rescue means to Eagle River or what rigs are best for hillside roads in winter. Vote no on 1. Let's stop playing politics with public safety. This message is paid for by Repeal 37 and approved by former Police Chief Walt Monaghan and former Fire Chief Craig Goodrich, chairs. Top 3 contributors are APDEA, Anchorage Firefighters, and AFSCME International of Washington, D.C.
Wells Fargo has exciting news. Until November 16, 2014, customers can come in for a free credit score and complimentary credit report. That's almost as exciting as a credit tip sung by a barbershop quartet.
Your payment history is the biggest factor in your credit score.
Not bad, guys. Come into Wells Fargo for your free credit score and complimentary credit report. Wells Fargo.
Together we'll go far.
Wells Fargo Bank N.A. member FDIC. See a banker for specific promotion details.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give him a call. 569-1080. KOAN.
$8:17 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie on air. Charisse Millette is on deck. Let me tell you about your financial future. Country Financial is asking you a couple set of hard questions, and to me, when they were asking them of me, when I sat in a couple-hour discussion about my life, very personal questions about what my priorities were, how I wanted to take care of my family, and how I wanted to make sure things would be okay, and what I wanted to do for retirement. They asked me a lot of questions I wouldn't have asked myself, and I didn't know that I needed to ask. I do now, and that's why I recommend Country Financial. They got 13 locations. They are professionals in this, and they just, if you don't have somebody to walk you through what your responsibilities are or how it will turn out in the end, you're just not going to know. And I don't think you're going to be successful. That was what really came clear for me. Country Financial, run by Mike Daniels. He's got representatives all over the state of Alaska, from Kenai all the way up to Fairbanks, 5 here in Anchorage, 5 in the Valley. Please give him a call, 866-COUNTRY. Country is spelled?
COUNTRY.
All right, Country Financial. Let me go to Charisse Millette.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I am thinking that being a legislator is going to be one of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest job ever in the history of Alaska coming up.
I think so. I think with some of the tough decisions we're going to have to make about our fiscal future and some of the decisions we're going to be making about the gas line and maybe gas taxes, I think this next 2 years is going to be crucial for the state of Alaska.
Tell me,
right.
yeah, we're headed into troubled waters. I think the state of Alaska, in the end, comes out better because we have to dramatically increase the number of people who have private sector employment.
Absolutely. We have to increase the number of small businesses also. I think that, we've seen that small business is the backbone of America, and that those are the jobs that we want to get people in. We want to have a business climate that helps small businesses start up and continue to grow, into medium-sized businesses. And that's the backbone of a good, solid private sector economy. I think you're right.
Well, tell me about the interaction of government in that process, because I couldn't agree with you more. If we don't have the proper business environment, the proper business climate, have we done a good thing with No on One, and what else is necessary?
Yeah, I think No on One was definitely a good start. I think having a stable tax climate, whether it's for oil and gas, mining, fishing, or private sector, I think those are things that people look to when they decide where they're going to start their businesses. The other thing that we need to have, is we need to have a good energy supply. We need to have, a good workforce ready to go to work in some of those jobs. And so I think, there's a lot of things that go into building a community that someone wants to start their business in. Having, a regulatory system and a permitting system that is streamlined and that, takes into account the environment and takes in account that businesses need to be able to have stability in those areas also in Alaska are very important to people, deciding where they want to start a new business.
Well, I've watched this debate, and I know that they just asked for the wolverine to be listed. They're fighting over a couple more species here in Alaska, and really environmentalists are... I always thought that they had a good purpose to start with, that we really did need to try and figure out. We didn't want to go out and keep hunting polar bears or walrus and that kind of thing.
Right.
But at some point,
right.
Yeah, they transitioned from, we've got a good idea here to,
right.
Now we just want to shut down all your businesses, and if we can sue you out of existence, we will. The Tonga forest sale, a good example.
Perfect example, and that was devastating to Southeast. I think one of the things that, we can use and learn by example is when the federal government closed down the Tongass for harvest, you saw communities basically decimated in their economic structure. People were jobless, homeless, domestic violence, and alcohol and substance abuse all rose in those communities. And it took a toll on not only the people in those communities, but, other people around the state and around the lower 48 that depended on that wood resource for their jobs and their economy. The trickle-down effect was amazing. And so I think that we can see from that example what possibly could happen in our oil and gas sector, in our mining sector for sure, but, what's next is our fishing sector. And that scares me that transition has been one resource, attack on one resource to the next resource to the next resource until the resource state that we became because we were a resource state, became a statehood. Now we've become a drain on basically the rest of the United States because we can't develop and provide the economy that we were promised we could upon statehood. So it's scary. What they did in NPRA, closing off 50% of the National Petroleum Reserve, 50% of that is now closed off forever to drilling. And if that doesn't say something about how the federal government feels about Alaska, I don't know what does. It's just been, one thing after another. EPA taking over, the 404 process at Pebble Mine, having their first hearing in Seattle, basically, by that. That should have told Alaskans where we fit into the federal dialogue when it comes to resource development.
Talking with Cherie Smollett, running for State House. Are you okay?
I am. I just, I have a cold like everybody else. It's not
Tis
unique.
the season.
It is the season. It's not unique. I feel like I knock on doors and, we've been going out every night and I feel bad. I try to make sure I don't, infect anybody. And
you don't cough on constituents.
No, I don't.
Are you going to vote for the other side?
Well, what's interesting is, people are opening their doors and they're coughing and opening with tissue, and it's just the season,
So, in all likelihood, you got it from a constituent.
No. I actually got it from one of my two lovely grandchildren. One is in daycare and one is 11 months old, and so they're perpetually exchanging bugs with each other, and then their grandmother gets it also.
We're talking here about what I consider to be a major challenge, and to try and move the state from where it's been, which has been heavily government-centric. I mean, probably a third of the state, our economy, is run through our government. That's probably going to change to more like a quarter of the state. The federal government share of our economy has got to shrink and is shrinking. That means that we've got to do something else. That means that the private sector has got to rise and got to blossom. What if you were to give me just a few things that you would say this is the critical step that we need? The Senate is an obvious one. We must turn away from this Democrat Senate that's got us locked up. But what do you think that, and what are you hearing that legislators are going to do along those lines?
Well, I think the one thing that's necessary for the state to move forward and make sure that we have an economic base is affordable energy. And I think the movement that we've seen on the gas line so far has been nothing but positive. I think we're at a point in time where we've got the LNG plant breaking ground down in Nikiski for the LNG facility. We've got the environmental impact statement and engineering going on for the pipeline route, which some of it is not new, but there's a large portion of that has not been surveyed and has not been engineered to come down from the North Slope. I think those are all positive steps that Alaskans see happening, and not that the gas line is going to be an economic driver like TAPS was, by no means, because gas is such it's a much less expensive commodity than oil is. But what happens when you have a gas pipeline like that and you have to fill it is exploration begins to boom, because when you're trying to fill a gas pipeline, you want the next big find, and you also find oil when you're looking for gas. And I think that's something that's missed a lot when we talk about what the gas pipeline means for Alaskans. It means more exploration, not only just for gas, but for oil too. It's crucial, I think, to keep TAPS going. One of our big concerns in the legislature is now that TAPS is down to 500,000 barrels a day, we're not too far off from 300,000 barrels a day, and it happens quite quickly. And that's one asset I don't think the nation or the state can afford to lose at this point in time, especially with what's going on in the Middle East and the uproar over Syria and the places that we import oil and gas from.
Yeah, so very dangerous world. What do you make of the decline in oil? Do you have any insight on that, and where you think it'll settle, or do we just not know?
I think it will settle. I think one of the things that you have to have is you have to have an investment climate for companies, small and large, to come up to Alaska and make that investment. They need a stable tax climate. They need a market that's willing to accept, a commodity that's ready to go, cost-effective shipping, whether it's in the pipeline or whether it's through an LNG facility, terminal. I think all of those things have to be in play when you look at, is Alaska's oil and gas marketable? And I believe we're at a juncture now with SB 21 and with some of the regulations and streamlining of permitting that we are at that point. I'm optimistically hopeful.
Cautiously optimistic. They're putting more drill rigs on the North Slope, and right. That's an indication that we have more investment on its way.
I believe so, and I believe you have people digging in their heels up there too, where before you had projects or areas that may have been marginal, and now under SB 21, those projects actually become profitable. Not only
so
for
the 40%,
state, but for the companies.
Basically, there were two big things in Senate Bill 21. One, we've already heard, has changed Malot's mind and is essentially rolling out across the state. Senate Bill 21 gets us more revenue below $100 or $105
Absolutely.
A barrel, which I think most people, they constantly said you're lying. They constantly would berate me for saying that. But anyway, everybody recognizes that now, and that's nice to at least have people questioning whether or not the facts they thought they had.
Stream. Right, we've leveled off our revenue stream. It's not just making high-end profit at the high end. We're actually leveled it off where we have a sustainable tax at all prices of oil.
So the 40% that they get for new oil in new oil fields, that is a big enough deal to bring people here.
I believe so. I believe, we've done a lot of things to incentivize new companies, mid-sized companies, and new investors in the oil and gas fields to come to Alaska and start drilling for exploration wells and start moving towards that.
We got a lot of oil left.
We've got
elephant fields like not elephant, but they're huge compared to everybody else's,
They're
right?
world-class fields. And, we first started developing Prudhoe Bay and Kuparuk back in the 80s. The expectation was to get, 10% of the oil. Now,
hey, Charisse, hold on a second. Can I hold you over?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, great. Charisse Millette running for office and going to almost certainly be part of the legislature again. The hard question's coming up. We do not have enough money to bridge through this downturn. What will we do? 569-1080 Fagan. Biegel and Bonnie. Fagan's out for until Monday. Biegel, Bonnie, and Brian are here. Biegel and Bonnie. Fagan's out for until Monday. Biegel, Bonnie, and Brian are here.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give them a call. 569-1080 KOAN.
Local news brought to you by Jansen Funeral Homes, Jansen's Evergreen Memorial Chapel, Jansen's Alaska Cremation Center, and Jansen's Eagle River Funeral Home. Jansen Funeral Homes, where just like family, they're there when you need them.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. Funeral services have been held for the longtime public radio music host who was killed earlier this month, allegedly by his teenage foster son. Family and friends grieve for 64-year-old Marvel Johnson, who was described as having a heart for the teenage boys in foster care no one else would take. Uber Technologies is no longer allowed to offer its ride-sharing app in Anchorage, and Kenda explains why.
For now, Uber cannot offer rides in Anchorage via an app that allows people to order up a ride in a privately driven car instead of a taxi. A Superior Court judge issued an injunction barring the rides unless the company is going to use regulated vehicles and comply with local transit laws. The case was brought by the municipality of Anchorage and supported by local taxi companies.
When you see news happening, email news@1080KOAN.com. That's your Hot Talk News update.
You can expect a blend of clouds and sunshine today, high 41, mostly cloudy tonight, low 31. We'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. Tomorrow's high 44, high Friday 42, Saturday's high 43. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather. KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Hey folks, this is Chris and Brock from The Beer Show. Make sure to listen to us every Saturday at 5 p.m. on 95.1 and 1080 KOAN.
The Beer Show is brought to you proudly every single week by Humpy's Great Alaska Ale House, Brown Jug Alaska, Great Artisan Beverages, and the Odom Corporation. Always drink responsibly.
A better life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Confusing labels cause 90% of Americans to waste food. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent. A new report by Harvard researchers found U.S. consumers trash billions of pounds of food every year because they're confused by the food expiration date labels. 90% of people believe certain foods are unsafe to eat after the expiration date has passed, and they toss it out. So here's what you need to know. Expiration dates are not a safety date, but think of them more like a guideline than a deadline. And the sell-by date on food is just saying you should buy the food before that date, but it doesn't indicate that the food is spoiled. A best if used by date on your food indicates when it's the most fresh. I know all of that can sound confusing, which is why researchers are pushing now for a new labeling system. Before you clean out your refrigerator, check out the USDA website for tips to determine if your food is safe to eat. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
Right now at the Home Depot, get a 10-year sealed battery smoke and carbon monoxide alarm start at just $24.97. So, let's worry less. Let's do smarter fire safety. Alarms that won't turn off and batteries that won't chirp for 10 long years. Let's do this. Get a worry-free alarms starting at just $24.97. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. U.S. only. See store for details.
Does your furnace need repair? Your house need cleaning? Or maybe you're ready to update your kitchen? Big or small, whatever your home improvement need, log on to handyman123.homeadvisor.com. Home Advisor is a free online resource with instant access to top-rated remodelers, maids, handymen, roofers, and many other home contractors. It's easy and it's free. Just go to handyman123.homeadvisor.com. Handyman123.homeadvisor.com. That's handyman123.homeadvisor.com.
When I grow up, I want to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, Country Financial helps you and your family grow your own way.
Or maybe a veterinarian.
A mom, a doctor, and president of the United States. Maybe an astronaut or, an Olympic gymnast.
You can grow your own way. We know some dreams take a little longer to achieve, which is why your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything. From auto and home insurance to financial planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream.
Or maybe an accountant, like my dad.
For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
Glen Biegel, you have beautiful teeth.
Why, thank you, Dan Fagan. That's because my family and I have gone to Dr. Dan Kiley for years.
I get scared at the dentist.
Dr. Kiley knows people like you are afraid, so he creates a relaxed atmosphere at his office. People actually like going to the dentist for Dr. Kiley.
I know it's important to have good dental health.
And you look better with good teeth. And Dr. Kiley offers cosmetic dentistry along with general care.
Visit Dr. Dan Kiley at lakeotisdental.com. Call him at 562-9209.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
Such a ladylike cough.
I'm sorry.
Have you ever noticed that? You poor thing. I mean, let's just say that the life of a legislator is not an easy one.
You know, it's not difficult either. I'm really lucky to be in this position and have run for office and been successful because it is an honor to serve, and it's really humbling, you know, when you can actually help, you know, your constituents with, you know, some of the things that they have to deal with the state. Like we've been dealing a lot in our office lately with the permanent fund dividend checks. You know, some people aren't getting them. They didn't check a box, or they don't have, you know, something from their university. We see it a lot with college kids, that they don't have their transcripts, or they don't have, you know, a letter from their school saying, yes, this person attended school. So we've been doing lots of things like that, and it is really pretty cool to be able to do that stuff for your constituents.
It's rewarding.
And help them. It is so rewarding, and I just feel really blessed.
I was going to say, I remember back when you were first running, and I remember hearing you on Dan's show, and I just thought it was so inspiring to hear somebody so passionate about wanting to, you know, make changes and make a difference. And to me, I just wish more people would be willing to put themselves out there to do that. So
I do too, because there's a lot of people out there that could serve that probably don't think about it in that capacity. They don't think like, I could do this, or the fear of being rejected on the ballot is so huge.
I can't imagine.
But and I don't think it's really, I don't look at it as a rejection if I were to lose, you know, God forbid, but I see it as, you know, people just going in a different direction. It's not a rejection of me. It might be a rejection of my beliefs or, you know, something I stand for. But I think people need to, you know, it's a tough thing for people to get over, is to put your name out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it only costs $30 to run for office.
Oh, wow, really?
And, yeah, and anybody
the filing
can
fee.
do it.
Are you going to get me in trouble? Dan got in huge trouble having a whole bunch of people file for office.
Oh, that's
no. I'm just saying. You know, it's too late to file now, but I always encourage people to run for office. I think the more options you have as a person voting, the better off you are, because it makes you think about what you want to see in your elected officials. I think it's really, I mean, we're so lucky to have the ability to have open elections, and that people can file. I mean, that's a really amazing thing about the United States. And so I am always encouraging people to run. I think, you know, everybody has the capacity to serve, and the legislature has the capacity to serve in U.S. Congress. I see it as an opportunity for people to just go out there and talk about their ideas, talk about their solutions, because it's a solution-based job. It's
well, what worries me, and we're talking with Cherise Millette, she's a representative here in Anchorage, and is that so few people participate, even if they don't run for office. And they just figure that, if you went and listened to somebody who's running for office give a speech, you would help them, you would support them, because you'd find out, gee, if I don't help them, then somebody else is going to pay the other side who doesn't believe what I believe.
Right.
And I'll lose.
Right. And I think it is that core belief system that people value. I mean, I've always been a pro-life candidate. People can count on that. And there's, certain things. I'm a pro-business person. I think that, our environment should be friendly to small businesses. I think I'm a pro-development candidate. I think that people need to know those things when you go in. I just got recently appointed about 3 years ago to the Governor's Council of Special Education and Disability, and I'll tell you, as a legislative representative, I will tell you that has probably been the most rewarding thing that I have done in my term, is to go in, and they had a list of things that they needed to get done, and really didn't have a good avenue of advocacy through the legislature. So our office took those three things that they wanted. One was so simple; it was just getting rid of the word retard in our statutes. And we did that.
word.
The R word. And I mean, it was one of those things that was probably so gratifying to watch people that have been called names, 100% of their lives, to have that removed from statute and have them gain self-respect and understand that people embrace them and love. They're humans.
Mm-hmm.
They're no different than you or I. They have a set of different circumstances, but so we got rid of the R word, and it was. I still have people stop me on the street and say, thank you for championing that issue. Wow. And I always say it took 60 of us to do that.
And I had a question too. In this next session, what are your priorities? What do you think the priorities would be for this next session, and how would it look differently under a Walker governorship? Are you prepared for that?
I guess I'm a little myopic. I've been just focusing on my race, but I am aware of the Walker-Millett ticket. And
polls are indicating that it's close.
Yeah, and I think what I worry about most is the progress that we've made on the oil and gas, on the gas line and oil
He's all over the map on this, by the way. He said first that he's going to undo it. He's in the middle of a lawsuit suing to stop it. Says it was the dirtiest backroom deal that has ever been occurred in the state of Alaska. Now he's come out and said, well, I'm not going to stop if I really think there's progress. I have no idea where he is. That's got to put a lot of uncertainty in this process.
Well, I think people should look at that, and I think they should, the governor and the legislature since I've been there in the last 6 years, we have made leaps and bounds towards an in-state gas line. The process has been tough and arduous and long, but it has to be, because you're talking about a couple, $10 billion to $40 billion investment that we're asking, companies to make in Alaska, long-term investment. So it's going to take some time. And so when we talk about the gas line, I see Governor Parnell as having a path forward. And when I look at some of the things that candidate Walker has talked about doing, he's been touting that he's been working on an LNG project for 30 years. And so I don't know what progress that he has made that he can come to the table and say, here's the progress I have made. I've seen a lot of people negating what he's saying, by saying, look, here's the progress that we've made. So I worry about that. I hope that, he understands where we are as a state.
Why? Can you answer a question for me? Why does the state keep talking about $3 to $4 billion a year of income for the state of Alaska on the gas line? Because that's impossible.
I don't know where those numbers come up with. That's
Well, Joe Bailash was on just a little while ago,
yeah.
and he said the same numbers. Look, it's maybe a billion. Yeah. It's maybe a billion because the cost of getting it down to where, to getting it down to where it's going to be used is very high. So the companies will get a part of the profit that exceeds that, and then we'll get a part of it as well. Are you in favor, by the way, of the 25% ownership? We own 25% of the line. We own 25% of the gas. We get 25% of the value.
Well, that's a good question. I have looked at all those propositions of us owning a part of the pipe. I think that one of the mistakes that we did have on TAPS is that we didn't have a larger ownership in TAPS, and I believe that it is to Alaska's best interest to be at the table when we negotiate tariffs, when we negotiate prices for our commodity. I believe that is something that we need to be part of. Where that money is going to come from, whether it's through bonding, whether it's through, our state finances, that's the question. That's the minute, obviously the devil's in the detail on where this money is going to come from.
Well, that's the elephant in the room. We do have to cover that. Can you
Yep.
stay with me one more segment?
Sure.
All right, Cherise Millette running for State House. You can kill her. Because I don't want you to kill her phone there. Don't kill her either. Don't die. We'll be right back with you. But I do want to find out what is going to change in the budgetary process with us being $2 billion, $2.5 billion in the hole for the next year possibly, or maybe it's not that dire. Maybe the current price of oil will not remain. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, 8:44 a.m.
Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
There is in every true woman's heart a spark of heavenly fire, which lies dormant in the broad daylight of prosperity, but which kindles up and beams and blazes in a dark hour of adversity. The 2014 Alaska Women's Summit, the University of Alaska, Anchorage College of Health, U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski and State Senator Liesl McGuire are calling on Alaska's brightest women to come together to work on finding answers to the toughest questions facing Alaskan women and families. Join us for 2 days, October 16th and 17th, focusing on building communities of change, self-advocacy, and removing the glass ceiling. Learn how empowerment and mentorship are vital tools in fostering successful young women. Presented by GCI, also sponsored by Saltchuk, ConocoPhillips, and BP. Register online today, AlaskaWomenSummit.com. The 2014 Alaska Women's Summit. Come and spark your fire.
And I approve this message.
These negative ads are everywhere.
Yeah, I stopped listening and did my own research.
Yeah, what did you find?
Well, I found I really like Dan Sullivan.
Well, I know he served in the Marines for 20 years, and he'll fight against President Obama and Democrats in Washington to protect my Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, and did you know when he was our Attorney General, he worked to put an end to violence against women, defended the constitutionality of Alaska's Parental Notification Initiative Act, and sued the federal government to stop Obamacare.
I like that. What else you got?
Well, as a veteran himself, he's dedicated to fixing the problems plaguing Obama's VA. And he'll fight to ensure they get all the benefits they've earned.
Dan Sullivan. I'm sold.
Me too.
Dan Sullivan, a principled leader for Alaska. Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Allen West Guardian Fund, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. AllenWestGuardianFund.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Getting down and dirty. Let me tell you about somebody who gets down and dirty under your car. His name is Keith Montronock, Specialty Truck and Auto. Truly one of the unique people in town, one of the most trustworthy people I've ever met, and I've known him for a long period of time. 349-1637 is Specialty Truck and Auto, and he's got highly qualified people to work on your car, on your truck, and he's not going to do work that doesn't need to be done. And that should comfort you because it's sort of a dog-eat-dog business. And a lot of times they'll take advantage of women or people who don't know their cars very well, and they can literally tell you just about anything is wrong with your car. Keith's not going to do that. 349-1637, Specialty Truck and Auto. Back to the phones here. Cherise Millette is on the phone with us. And what I think is going to be one of the most positive times in Alaska history because we're going to turn away from government and we're going to turn to the private sector. We're going to turn away from the bureaucrat. We're going to turn to our neighbor and to charity. And that, to me, is what brings societies together. It's what makes us strong. It is what makes America America. It is the brilliance of our system. And so I think that's going to happen dramatically. But I want you to walk me through, there must be some rumblings inside the Republican caucus that, folks, we're not doing business the way we've done business in the past.
Absolutely. I think that that's going to be the theme for probably the next decade in the legislature and throughout state government is how can we do things better and leaner. I think one of the things that during our budgetary process this year, our subcommittees are going to be a lot busier looking at each department than we ever have before. It's crucial. It will be crucial to make government leaner. We can still offer the services we have. We just have to be smarter about it. I think that we're also going to have to take a look at what we're funding and how we're funding things when it comes to everything from healthcare to education to our roads and public safety. I think we're going to have to get very serious about making smart decisions with our money. Not that we haven't in the past. I think we have. I think that now with budget constraints that we're going to have and with a change in revenue streams, we're going to have to look at ways to make the budget smarter. And I think you'll see that we've had a couple of pieces of legislation passed in the last couple of years. I know Speaker Chenault had a review of all the agencies, and we do them, I think, 3 by 3 by 3 every year for the next 6 years.
And does this compare them kind of to down south, or does it compare them to other management structures? I mean, I'm not sure what a review of state agencies, because I don't know that there's any comparable organization.
Right. I don't think there is either. I think what the review will take into account is how we're using our money, if it's the best use of our money, and is there a better way to streamline how we operate our agencies.
Charisse, we got to get real here.
We do.
You have got to take $1.3 billion or so, because here's the unstated reality. We will not make it using our current savings to the point at which we have a gas line, A. B, the gas line does not make up any reductions in oil price or flow. So we've got, we're not talking about just working around the edges. We're talking about a very dramatic change. What does the state look like at $1.3 billion less out of state government?
Well, it definitely looks a lot different than it looks right now. I think you'll see a lot smaller capital budgets, which I don't know if you remember, you were here and I was here back in the 90s when oil hit $9 a barrel of oil, and I believe actually Governor Parnell was the Senate Finance Chair at that time. It was days of cutting budgets and making decisions that were difficult. I don't think anybody was revered or liked in the legislature during that time. It was a tough time in our state's history.
Oh, people were revered. I mean, everybody knew how difficult it was. The one person who was not revered, by the way, and put forth $300 million deficit to $700 million deficit budgets that every year was the same response from the legislature. They're dead on arrival. This is not a serious budget. We will do the work that this Governor Tony Knowles should have done.
Right.
And that's what Sean Parnell's response was each and every time. A $1.3 billion deficit is going to hit everything. It'll hit the university.
Right.
It'll hit education. You're right. Roads, the capital projects will have to diminish.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think education looks like?
Well, that's something that we probably, I don't know if you remember, probably 7 years ago, Representative Hawker had a very in-depth, interim long conversation about what the education system and education funding was. What came out of that were maybe some flaws in the way we do our student-based allocation funding, looking at, building, to the point we were looking at buildings and how we build schools. One of our big expenses is maintenance and operations of our schools around the state. And one of the things that we don't do is we don't have that cookie-cutter school like Do you know why McDonald's and Taco Bell are so successful? Because their buildings are all the same. They use the same heating system. They use the same windows.
They don't give you cheese.
And
That's an inside joke, by the way, because I went through the line today,
He's
and
still
I
mad
have
about
a
it.
conspiracy that they did not give me cheese on my sausage McMuffin.
Did you ask for it?
Well,
I
it always
said.
has cheese on it. Are you kidding me? You can't put a sausage McMuffin with no cheese on it.
But seriously, people vote in, these, we want buildings for these kids and we want the biggest and the best, but they don't think about the maintenance that goes into it. You have to heat it, you have to take care of it, and upkeep.
Yeah, you're right, Bonnie. And it's just as simple as having an energy-efficient building that anybody in the state of Alaska can take a maintenance person from Bethel and go out to, to a smaller village and say, Tuksuk Bay. I can go from Bethel to Tuksuk Bay, and the engineering in that building, the heating, the ventilation, the boiler, the windows, the roof, they're all the same. I am trained to work on every single school in that region. And it's as simple as those things. It's as simple as when we put in plants for energy or water farms or a sewage system, that they are consistent. They are the same. That's what saves money. The scope of economy, the scale of economy. If you have the same system everywhere, and it's weatherproof and it's tested for Arctic conditions, and you have the same people being able to work on them no matter what location they're in, it saves you training money, it saves you parts money, it saves you in every aspect you can.
We're still talking about doing things around the edges. Here's the one thing that I have a difficult time understanding or believing. I know that Vince Beltrami and the public sector unions are heavily behind this Walker-Malott ticket. I believe that people have been promised cabinet positions in order to get Democrat support. I don't have verification of that. Of course, I wasn't in the room, so I'll ask Walker when he's here, but he will confirm that when he appoints people to those positions. Here's what I don't understand. And we're talking with Charisse Millette. She's a House member. You're listening to Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie on KOAN and KVNT. What I don't understand is they just had a debate up in Fairbanks, and Parnell and Walker trade jabs on spending, energy, and leadership, but spending, both of them are sounding the same tune, which is we've got to have a dramatically smaller budget. Every legislator comes up, other than the Democrats in the House, they all say we've got to have a dramatically smaller budget. I've never heard of Vince Beltrami or the NEA attempting to try and limit the growth in the budget, and seems like they've both secured sort of guarantees that they're not going to have to suffer them. How are the budget cuts going to come?
Well, I think that's a reality that we're all going to face in this next session, whether you're a teacher, whether you work for the DOT, whether you work in DMV. I mean, it's even through the private sector. I mean, when we take capital budgets away, that's an impact to businesses that pave our roads, that snowplow our roads, that maintain airports, maintain airport equipment, maintain our ports and harbors. So it's not just.
There won't be any one part that's going to have to live through a cut.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is it's going to reach everyone at some level of spending, and it's going to be, it's going to be difficult. There's difficult decisions to be had. We're constitutionally mandated to provide public education, a transportation system, and public safety. People forget that those are the things that are in the Constitution that we're supposed to be focusing on. And I think once it's like having an ABC school. You want your kids to be educated in everything, but the fundamentals are what you really need to focus on. And I think you'll see the success of ABC schools all around the state, especially in Anchorage. They're the most popular schools, biggest waiting list. I think when you go to the budget process, you have to look at your fundamentals and do them right and do them well and make sure that they're lean and they're mean and they're effective.
I would love to see that come up again, too, in the legislature this next session.
So
school choice.
I think what we're going to see on the budget is some very difficult decisions. I can tell you when I'm down in the legislature, one of the things that I spend probably 50% of my time, which I enjoy, is having people come to me and say, I would like a capital request. Here's my capital request. It runs the gamut from every nonprofit that you can think of to every group in Alaska that has a cause. And they're all good causes. There's no fault in asking for money. Where the fault lies is when we say yes to so many people. And that's something that we have to talk about. We have to talk about wants versus need.
Yeah. Well, the capital budgets have been falling fairly dramatically. They're still probably a little high historically, and I guess at this point you'll just be looking at covering school building and the 70% match, although maybe not even that.
Well, everything is up for discussion. I don't think we should take anything off the conversation block.
Yeah.
I really think that we need to have a conversation. So I have a question for you.
Well, wait, we're going to have to ask me off air because we're out of time. Sharice Millette, thanks so much for being on. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, have a great Wednesday, folks, 8:58 a.m.
Effects than solutions. Do you want more than 15 minutes with your doctor? If you answer yes to those questions, you should consider calling the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine. At our center, we take the time to listen and focus on finding the cause of your health problems. Whether you have a cold, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, we can help. Call the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine at 563-237